Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bat Around. I'm your host, Paul Valle. With me today is not Zack Goodman. It is Griffin Bass filling in for Zack Goodman. Griffin, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, Paul. Well, I mean, after the Orioles, not too great, but you know, as far as things go, not too bad.
Yeah, man. Well, I certainly appreciate you hopping on the show today and helping us out. And I will tell you, it is really hard to do the rundown for the show when the Orioles play so poorly. And the beginning of the year, the first 2 months of the season, they played really well on Fridays. I think they won almost every single Friday that they played. Well, 4 of my last 6 shows, 4 of the last 7 overall, they have lost 12-2, 10-3, 13-1, and 8-1. So it has been really trying to do a show when you're pissed off at the team, for lack of a better terminology.
That makes sense, and it seems like there's kind of one thing that came around right when they started losing on Fridays. Those City Connect jerseys.
Oh my God, man! You know, I try not to talk about it on the show because I do buy into like auras and stuff like that, and like things having like just. I can't think of that terminology either, but I do buy into that stuff, but I know a lot of people don't. Like the announcer jinx, that's a thing.
Right.
That's a real thing. And the City Connect jerseys, they are terrible. They have 1 win and 4 losses now in those City Connect jerseys, and I think all the losses are on Friday. It's been,
And then I guess the Saturday against Texas as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. They lost the first 2 games last year. You are correct. By the way, today's show brought to you by PressBox Online Offers. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers now and get $150 in bonus bets from DraftKings after placing your first $5 bet. See this and other great sportsbook offers at PressBoxOnline.com/offers. Griffin, how do you feel about gym locker rooms?
Like, I mean, I don't like the smell of them. I can say that. Otherwise, it's just a part of life. I think. It's just something that you just gotta deal with and you gotta live through.
Man, I'm telling you. And the reason I bring this up, it put me in some kind of mood today, man, because I like to go to the gym pretty frequently, and I always go early in the morning. Today's gym session was a really good one. I go in the locker room, I walk around the corner. There are 5 gym locker room shower stalls that have curtains.
Right.
And then there's 2 on the other wall that are on the corner, hidden away from everybody's view. There is this old man in the second shower stall where everybody that walks into the main part of the locker room can see directly into this stall. This man does not have the shower curtain closed, and he's just there, gratuitous nudity for the world to see, man. And this is not your home. This is a public locker room. Nobody wants to see you naked, man. It doesn't take much energy. I get it. You're like 82. You don't have a ton of energy anymore. You should have enough energy. You're at the gym to close that shower curtain.
Well, maybe it's credit to him. He just put in such a good workout that he didn't even have an ounce of energy left to pull the curtain around, and he also wanted to show off, the great 82-year-old bod that he's rocking.
I
give you some inspiration, probably.
I gotta tell you, man, I didn't think of it in those regards. Maybe he was so worn out from his workout that he couldn't close that shower curtain. Maybe that is the case. All I know is that I was in that locker room for about 15 minutes. So was this gentleman. And between the shower and him meandering around, not once did I see him clothed. Not once did I see him clothed. And I'm not there for that. I am not there. And nobody else is. I'm thinking about putting a sign up that says nobody needs to see this. Cover up.
Yeah. Okay. I
Sorry.
Like others would probably appreciate it. So
Yeah. I know I'm not alone in this.
No, you can't be.
I know. There's no way. You know what else I'm not alone in, Griffin? I am not alone in my disdain for the Orioles game last night. It was atrocious. And look, Pablo Lopez is a good pitcher. There's a reason that the Twins traded a guy who's batting .400 for Pablo Lopez. He's a good pitcher. This year he's had middling results. ERA near 4.5 going into last night's game, and he absolutely dominated the Orioles. Through 6 innings, he gave up, 3 hits, 1 run.
The first run, or the first hit, was that Austin Hayes cheap infield single.
Yep.
And so, he was on it, and the Orioles really, he had 3 walks. That was really the only part where he looked even remotely vulnerable.
And the walks, the Orioles did nothing.
They did nothing with
to take advantage. And you can go back to their last 3 games. There have been 3 instances where they had an opportunity to put runs on the board, and they failed miserably. And I'm not trying to come down on too hard because they're a good team. They have one of the best records in all of baseball. But you look at these wasted opportunities. The second inning last night, you have a walk to put runners on first and second. Adam Frazier swings at the first pitch and weakly flies out to right field. Then you have another walk to load the bases, and Cedric Mullins swings at the first pitch, and he weakly flies out to right field. And it ends the inning. The Orioles don't score. You go back to the 6th inning on Wednesday. There's a walk. There's a 4-pitch walk. Then Jordan Westburg swings at the first pitch and grounds into a double play. Then there's a 5-pitch walk. So the 2 guys sandwiched around Jordan Westburg walked on 9 pitches. Then you have so now you have a runner on first base. There's 2 outs and there's an F9. Should have been bases loaded. Nobody out, a run home, because I think there was a hit by pitch in there also. Should have been bases loaded, nobody out, a run home to tie the game, and the Orioles still batting, again, with nobody out. Instead, they're out of the inning with no runs. Then you go back to the 7th inning on Tuesday. Mullins walks. He bluffs going after 2 throwovers before another pitch is thrown. You know that he's going on the next pitch. You know he's going on the next pitch. It's 1-0. He takes off, and they pitch out. It's an obvious pitch-out situation. It's a close game late. Maybe wait one more pitch.
Right.
Maybe wait one more pitch. Instead, he gets thrown out. Westburg walks O'Hearn 3-0. Check swing, which would have check swing, ground out to shortstop. There's a good chance with how erratic this pitcher was throwing that he would have walked as well. Then they hit by pitch. Then Hayes caught looking. Now, look, that was the at-bat where Hayes took a pitch that was 6 inches inside, and it was called a strike. But then there's the next pitch. The next pitch was inside, but it was in the strike zone. After the pitch, there's something to be said for being frozen, for getting caught on a pitch you're not expecting, but you got to try and fight it off. To be caught looking there in a situation where that game is close, those are 3 wasted opportunities in, at the time, close games where the Orioles could have, gotten themselves back in the ball game, and they didn't, and they ended up losing. Now they've lost 3 games in a row for just the second time all season, which is, again, a credit to the team, but you kind of feel like the other shoe's dropping a little bit with this team, right? Because the middle relief has been awful. The starting rotation's been inconsistent, and now the bats are really slowing down at the exact same time.
Right.
It kind of feels like, and now they're heading into July. It's another gauntlet. It could be a tough sledding for them for a little bit.
Yeah, it certainly feels like that. It also feels, though, that whenever this does happen with this team this season, they've found a way to break out of it. And so everything you mentioned is 100% true, and it makes you feel really, really worried about where they're at right now. And you got to hope it's just a really bad stretch of hopefully 3 games, and then they find a way for the offense to break out. And they just gotta the lineup. The lineups are, because I know you wanted to talk about the bad players that they continue to play, and it's hard to see Frazier at this point still in the lineup, and because he doesn't seem like he brings much. He doesn't bring anything defensively, and he doesn't really come through with big hits anymore. Well, I mean, obviously, of course, Wednesday night he did come through with a hit, and it. But yeah, the bullpen is also a big problem. We saw now that we see other teams are making bullpen moves. I think hopefully that puts the pressure a little bit on Mike Elias in the front office, and we see them. I would really like to see another bullpen arm, whether that's Scott Barlow from the Royals or anywhere. Joe Kelly from Chicago White Sox.
Keelan Williams from the that's not his name. Keelan, I can't remember his last name. It begins with a W. It might be Williams. It might be Woodford, I can't even remember, but he's having a really, really nice season. ERA about 2.5 for them in, I want to say, 24 games. I think he's averaging a strikeout or 2 per inning. He's having a really nice year for them, and they're having a bad year. The Orioles, maybe you get a package for him and Lucas Giolito or Lance Lynn.
Yeah.
I know Lance Lynn's not having a great year, but he's been a bulldog in his career, and I think if he gets in the right situation, the right environment, he can get back to that level.
It seems like, as you say, the calendar's turning to July, and they went completely cold this past week. when you add another guy, even if they're not going to be, an all-star or a superstar, that kind of caliber, is when you add another guy that is there to help the team, that helps boost the locker room, boost the clubhouse.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. And we're going to get to the Orioles rostering some bad players in just a second here, but I want to go back and talk about Dean Kremer. Dean Kremer allowed another 2 home runs last night, and he has allowed 5 his last 2 starts. He has allowed 19 to tie with Tyler Wells for the team lead. Only 2 pitchers in baseball have allowed more home runs than Tyler Wells and Dean Kremer. The Orioles starters have put the team in a first inning deficit 3 of the last 4 games. Kremer and Gibson have really hurt the team the last 2 games. Neither one of them got past the third. Well, no. Gibson got into the 5th, but he went 4 2/3 innings. But your last 2 starters have combined to go, 7 2/3 innings and allow 12 runs on 16 hits. That can't happen.
No.
That absolutely can't happen. And now you're seeing, and Stan brought up the rotation in his 4 midseason observations article last week. And I combated him about the rotation because at the time when he wrote that article, the Orioles' rotation was 5th best in the American League for the month of June. Their ERA was about 3.75. Tyler Wells was emerging as an ace. Kyle Gibson had put together 3 or 4 really strong starts. Bradish has been good for a good while now. They were starting to really look. I mean, in Dean Kremer's ERA since May, he was 6-2 with a 3.33 ERA since the beginning of May, going into his start last Saturday. So, and then he went 7 innings and he gave up 3 solo home runs for the 3 runs. He's looked really good aside from those home runs. A week later, you're looking at this rotation and what they've done over the last 8 starts. And let's go back to this here. Tyler Wells, 3 walks, 2 home runs, 4 runs, 2 earned, 5 innings pitched. Gibson, 3 walks, a home run, 5 earned runs, 3 innings pitched. Kremer, walked, 3 home runs, 3 earned runs, 7 innings pitched. Bradish, 7 innings, 2 hits, 2 earned runs. Irvin, 3 innings pitched, 1 earned run, but a rain delay knocked him out of the game. And then Tyler Wells, 6 innings pitched, 2 earned runs and a home run allowed. They had 3 really strong starts in the 4-start stretch. You don't know what Irvin would have done because of the rain delay. But then you get back to Gibson and Kremer, and again, 4 2/3 innings, 9 hits, 6 earned runs. Kremer, 3 innings pitched, 7 hits, 2 home runs, 7 earned runs. 13 earned runs in 7 2/3 innings. The rotation's ERA over that stretch, 6.52 with a 14.21 whip and 10 home runs allowed in 8 games. They've got to be better than that, especially when you look at how bad the middle relief is. We're getting mad that Keegan Aikens in a game the other day. Hyde has no other options. He can't go Coulomb, Cano, and Bautista every single day. Perez looks like he's starting to come along, but Keegan Aiken, not a big league pitcher. Mike Baumann and Brian Baker are the same dude. They're either really good or really bad.
Baumann, I think, has been a little bit more consistent this season. I think we can give him that. But yeah, Baker's not looked great the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, started awesome, but he's been really wildly inconsistent recently.
Yeah, and Kremer was so disappointing last night, especially, like you said, the last couple starts the last, several starts he's made. We did an exercise yesterday on Glenn's show where we did, our first half superlatives, and I made Dean Kremer my biggest surprise. The way that he turned around after a very bad April. And then he puts together that start for last night, and he just did not have it. I mean, he did have 5 strikeouts, so he had a little bit of something, but he clearly did not have what he normally does.
Outside of those strikeouts, a lot of hard contact, a lot of base hits, not missing many bats. And you kind of saw it coming last week. I was at the game on Saturday, and he gave up those 3 home runs, and none of them were cheapies. But he got 7 innings, and those were the only runs that he gave up. They were all solo shots.
Efficiency.
Yeah. So you're thinking, on the one hand, 3 home runs. On the other hand, 7 innings, So you don't know how to feel, but then he puts together that dud. It's really 2 less than quality starts from him, despite him having what's technically a quality start last Saturday. And look, and Stan kind of, I send him my notes every Friday night. And he kind of was like, you can't freak out over an 8 to 10 game stretch. Well, it's not that I'm freaking out over an 8 to 10 game stretch. It's the fact that you could see this coming. You could see it coming with the bullpen, the batters in the lineup that have. I mean, nobody wants to talk about the fact that Adley Rutschman has hit 220 since the beginning of June. And nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about the fact that 9 of their position players have an on-base percentage below 300 in the last calendar month. Nobody wants to talk about that, but it's a thing. And if you're watching it, and the fact that they've scored 3 runs or less in 13 of 24 games in the month of June, and 18 of the last 31 games overall, and they've scored 3 runs or less in 32 of 80 games, 40% of their games, exactly 40% of their games, they are scoring 3 runs or less. That is not good. You can't have that. And then when your starting pitcher goes out against, statistically, one of the worst offenses in all of baseball in the Minnesota Twins and gives up 2 home runs and 7 runs in 3 innings, that you put yourself in a hole against a team that you should have no problem handling. Now you got to go out and hope you get a victory today, because tomorrow you got to go up against Sonny Gray. And he's one of the best pitchers in baseball.
With Cole Irvin on the mound.
With Cole Irvin on the mound, and likely a bunch of backups. You know, Rutschman will probably be catching because he didn't catch last night.
Yeah.
But you're looking at, probably Ryan McKenna starting tomorrow. You're looking at Jorge Mateo. Hopefully Westberg's playing second base.
You don't know what kind of bullpen arms are going to be available after today.
Exactly. To win this series, and look, every time I say it's going to be difficult for the Orioles, they go out and they prove me wrong.
Yeah.
But I know baseball. I know what my eyes tell me, and my eyes tell me that unless they start making moves now, don't wait to the deadline. Start doing stuff now, because it's going to get a lot worse before it gets a lot better with what they have coming up in the month of July.
Yeah, I agree. I think we don't want it to get late early, Aroldis Chapman's already gone. I don't know if the Orioles were ever even considering him, but,
They shouldn't have been, no. And I'll get to that in my final thoughts today.
Okay.
He is not somebody that you want on your baseball team. But continue, please.
Okay. But I think they need to. They clearly need to make a move. You can't be handing the ball to Keegan Aiken and Bruce Zimmerman in a spot where you still potentially have a chance to win a baseball game. Yeah,
you absolutely can. I'm glad you mentioned Keegan Aiken and Bruce Zimmerman. Guys, we've seen enough to know that these guys are not big league pitchers. Adam Frazier is still playing every day, and the Orioles and their fans have got to stop falling in love with these middle infielders who can't hit their weight but get a clutch hit once every week or two. Adam Frazier has 9 home runs. They've all been big home runs, right? They've all, for the most part, except for the one that he hit a couple of weeks ago, most of his home runs have been when the Orioles were within 3 runs or less, or the game was tied. They've been big home runs. He otherwise has a .223 batting average on balls in play. He's hitting, what's he hitting now? 225?
Frazier?
Adam Frazier.
Okay.
He's hitting about 225, on base percentage of about 305, a slugging percentage of about 360. I'm sorry, it's like 398. OPS well below 690. He's not having a good year, and his defense, he has no range. He is in the first percentile of defense among second basemen. Not good. That's not good.
No.
So, and now you have Jordan Westberg up. There's no reason that he shouldn't be playing every day, especially after an off day. And I know Brandon Hyde likes to match up. He likes to do lefty-righty and righty-lefty. I get that. At some point, you've got to say, I don't care if this guy's right-handed going against a left-handed pitcher. He's an everyday player. And Jordan Westberg, the way he started his big league career, the way he's been in AAA, he looks like he's an everyday player. He looks like somebody that should be playing every single day. Jorge Mateo, utility guy. Ryan O'Hearn hits cleanup for this team, and now he's getting exposed. This is a guy who, great platoon player, bat him against righties as a left-handed batter every now and again, but he should not be playing every day, nor should he be hitting in the 4-hole. Great month of June, but his track record for the long haul shows that what he's been showing us the last week or so is more so the guy that he is, rather than the guy we saw the previous 3 weeks. We got to get Stan the Fan on the line. While Griffin does that, I want to remind you that the latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Dave Ginsburg remembers Goose as he looks back on the impact the late Tony Siragusa has had both on and off the field in Baltimore. Plus, he explains how Goose's kids are working to continue that legacy with the Goose Flights program. Also inside, Todd Karpovich profiles the path Tyler Wells has taken to becoming a star in the Orioles rotation, and you'll find a special summer travel guide with information about events and activities throughout the state. Remember, the Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com. While we're getting Stan on the line here, want to remind you folks that, again, Today's show brought to you by the Toyota Tacoma, which comes in a range of models and trim lines, and you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Joining us now for his weekly segment, he is Stan the Fan Charles, and he's live with us here on the Bat Around. Stan, good morning. Just want to point out it is Griffin sitting in for Zack today. Zack, I can't even remember what he's doing, but he's out doing something. How are you today, Stan?
He's probably out general managing somewhere.
Yeah, I think so. He and I had a conversation last week, and he's starting to get down on his career in baseball at a very young age. I told him he's got to stick with it. He's too young to give up on it right now. So hopefully he's out doing something that will reignite his fuel. But Stan, I combated you last week over the starting rotation. Last night I said I was wrong. They did have a 3 out of 4 start stretch in the middle of the week where they had quality starts. The other one was Cole Irvin, 3 innings, 1 run, and then they had the big rain delay. But what they've gotten out of Kyle Gibson and Dean Kremer, each of their last 2 starts, less than desirable. Is the pressure really on this team now to go get a starting pitcher, or are they still going to wait till the deadline to do it?
It sure doesn't look like they're going to be in any hurry to do it, So, that's a tricky question. I still expect Irvin to appear and start to give the club some quality starts. If you look over his past 2 years, that's sort of what is in his DNA. He's not a superstar by any means, but he can easily pitch to, for 70, 80 innings at a 3.5, 3.6 ERA, in my opinion. So I think that will help solidify things. That was a game plan going into the season, and I don't quite understand why they jettisoned that plan so quickly. But, they definitely have some this team is being held back by its pitching, and I'm not just saying the starting pitching. Their bullpen has really sprung a couple leaks too.
Yeah.
I think Mike Elias has got to have the intestinal fortitude to maybe try and fix that bullpen right now. I don't know where Tate is. I don't know where Givens is right now. I know Givens is with the team right now. I see him in the locker room, and I see him in the dugout during games. But they need a couple new arms in that bullpen, in my opinion.
They absolutely do, and I know that Brandon Hyde said that the injury list reads like a Monday morning list after a football game from the previous Sunday. And I know that Givens and Tate were brought back to Baltimore to be reevaluated before they go back on rehab assignments. So it's not looking good for either one of them. Keegan Aiken and Bruce Zimmerman are both having issues. Although Zimmerman, he gave the Orioles a couple of really strong innings last night. He did give up that 1 home run when he came into the game. But aside from that, he has
He's got some homeritis. There's no question about it. But I've liked a little bit more of what I've seen of him lately. First of all, it looks like he trimmed down. Doesn't he look more lean than in the past?
I always thought he looked kind of lean, but maybe.
Yeah.
I didn't pay too much attention.
I've been around him, and he's not chunky, but he's burly. He's big. He's a big guy, but he looks just more athletic. To me, and I've liked him a little bit more. In other words, we're splitting hairs here because I like him more than I do Aiken right now, and that's not hard. That's not a high bar right now.
Yeah, they've put Keegan Aiken on the 15-day IL with a back issue. He has been dreadful since the end of last June, if not a little bit before that. To me, Stan, this guy has to prove again that he's a big league pitcher because he hasn't done it for almost a calendar year now. Bruce Zimmerman, he's been better than I expected, and it seems like the entire team has aside from the last 3 guys in the bullpen, it seems like the entire team has the issue with homeritis. Dean Kremer and Tyler Wells have each given up 19. Only 2 pitchers in baseball have given up more. Grayson Rodriguez had the homeritis, as you said, and he's still giving up at least 1 home run every start down in AAA. It really, and Cole Irvin, if he misses with this changeup, that ball is getting pounded 400 feet every time. It's been a serious issue. I was listening to Rob Long on the Big Bad Morning Show the other day, and he mentioned the idea of John Means coming into middle/long relief for the Orioles, since he's going to be limited with his innings anyway to end the season. What are your thoughts on John Means maybe taking over as that long man before he gets back into the rotation next season?
It makes perfect sense to me. I wouldn't have stood. I mean, it's pretty much stating the obvious, though. I mean, when a guy like that comes back and he's had a setback too, it's not like you're expecting him suddenly to just be thrust into the rotation as a savior. You're hoping to get some quality innings out of him, and he should be, if he's fully healthy and proves it on a rehab assignment, when they're ready for it. The question is the timing. We're talking about now needing some fortification in the bullpen, and the guy we've left out is maybe Nick Vespi will be the guy. Maybe they'll get somebody that's better than Zimmerman, and Vespi will stay. So that's where they're at right now. I couldn't pinpoint. Maybe Mike Elias could, or Chris Holt could. I can't pinpoint when they're going to have John Means back. So to me, that's not really a topic that's front and center for me. When he's ready, he'll probably help the team in some capacity.
I imagine that he will, and I'm just going off of what Mike Elias said today, that they're hopeful for August, and they said that he's back to playing catch and everything like that. So hopefully in the next few weeks, maybe we'll see him start to get onto a mound and maybe getting some game action by mid to late July. I think that's the best we can hope for at this point. Now, you mentioned Nick Vespi. Go ahead.
That might be a factor in their thinking about not wanting to give up prospects for a starting pitcher. Is maybe they still feel that Means can come back and start 7 or 8 games, from August 15th to the end of the year, and maybe not go 7 or 8 innings, maybe go 4, and you get good starts. Then maybe that's the thing to do, is impact your bullpen with an acquisition. And those acquisitions of the bullpen arms, as we've discussed before, Paul, that they don't require the financial gamble that you'd be making on a Giolito and Eduardo Rodriguez, those type of performers that have the ability to either opt out or be free agents next year. The last thing we want to do is give up 2 prospects, say a Norby and an Ortiz, or a Cowser and somebody, and then at the end of the year you can't sign the guy.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a risky. Yeah, that's a risky proposition to make.
You certainly don't want to give up some top 100 prospects for a starter that's going to leave. That's why you kind of want to go after somebody who has a little bit more control, maybe like a Corbin Burns, or somebody who you think that you can sign to an extension, especially if they perform well for you down the stretch. That remains to be seen. Most of these guys that are going to be available seem to be in the last year of their deals, which makes it a little bit more difficult than it would be. And look, for all we know, they can call up Grayson Rodriguez, and he can look like the Grayson Rodriguez he's supposed to look like, rather than the guy who every other start was giving up 6 to 7 runs. So there's a lot that can still happen with this team. Nick Vespi, for me, was a really nice call-up for last night's game. 3 innings pitched, 3 hits, no runs, 3 strikeouts. We've been clamoring for him for a good while. He's pitched really well the last 2 years down in AAA. Were you surprised, though, to see a guy who's never been more than an inning or 2 reliever go 3 innings last night?
Yeah, I have to admit I was a little bit. And, I also think that doesn't probably bode well for him or Zimmerman, the fact that they both pitched 5 innings last night. Wouldn't you think between the 2 of them, they pitched 5 innings?
Yeah. That
one or both might get dropped down to get fresh arms up.
You would think, but then you don't know who are they going to call up to replace one of those guys, because there's not really anybody else down there lighting the world on fire. I mean, Joey Crable's been okay, but then they'd have to add him to the 40-man roster. I'm not sure you want Joey Crable taking up a roster spot, so I just don't know who they'd be able to bring up.
Good point.
Now, CNL Perez, Stan, he's been bad all year. He's been living off of his 2022 campaign the entire season. But ever since his debacle in Chicago, his last 4 outings have been scoreless. He's allowed 2 hits, 2 walks, and hit by pitch with 5 strikeouts in 5 innings pitched. It's a .8 whip. It's a small sample size, but how big is it for this team if CNL Perez is reverting back to his 2022 form, considering what they already have in the back end of their bullpen?
It would be absolutely huge right now if you know. Luke and I always call it the manager Brandon Hyde's circle of trust.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the people that he's put in a game with a lead. That's the only thing that's been missing probably from Perez's resume of late. He's definitely pitched better, that the pressure hasn't been on. You know, he's come into games that are sort of out of reach, one way or the other. It's both when we've led by a lot or we're trailing by a lot. So, you know, we need to see him show up in a game that's, you know, either tied or the Orioles have the lead and have him perform well to really get him back in manager Brandon Hyde's circle of trust.
Absolutely, and I think that probably just based off his last 4 outings, he's probably already back in there. For nothing else, Brandon Hyde doesn't really have much else to turn to at this point, given what he's got in the bullpen right now. So CNL Perez, and Stan, you and I know as well as anybody that baseball and professional sports as a whole are played between the ears. And if CNL Perez is feeling confident after these last 4 outings and thinking, you know what, I can do this, that could bode well for him the rest of the way. So that's definitely something that's looking good for the Orioles right now. Hopefully that continues. Now, Stan, what's been continuing on the negative side of things for the Orioles is their offense. They scored 1 run last night. It was the 13th time in 24 games in June that they scored 3 runs or less, the 18th time in the last 31 games overall. And Stan, it was the 32nd time in 80 games that they've scored 3 runs or less. That's 40% of their games. This offense has been really middling for a while, and you look at it, they have about 8 or 9 players that since the beginning of June have an on-base percentage below 300, including Adley Rutschman, who's hitting .221 since the beginning of June with a .295 on-base percentage. What does this offense need to do to get back on track? Has it just been a bad approach at the plate recently?
I don't do a deep dive like you do on those numbers all the time. It's been pretty apparent that Rutschman has been one of the key, the key culprits in a downturn by the offense. You know, he's, for the first time, he's looked kind of human at the plate. And we're talking about this despite the fact he won last night. I think he had 2 hits last night, but he's been a disappointment over the month of June. There's no question about it. They really have only had 2 hitters. Well, O'Hearn had that nice 10-day period, 12-day period, whatever it is. I think you put in your notes that he's like 3 for his last 20.
Yeah,
that's not a huge surprise to me. You know, nobody was saying that Ryan O'Hearn should be in there every single day, and I think you'll see a little alteration in that with Santander probably playing a little bit more first base right now.
Do you expect
Santander and Orioles both playing first base more, and Hicks being in there over O'Hearn against left-handed pitchers?
Do you expect to see Ryan Mountcastle return to the club sooner rather than later with the struggles that O'Hearn is starting to have now and kind of getting more exposed the more he plays?
I really have no expectation with Mountcastle right now. I mean, he's 3 for 23 in the minor leagues at AAA.
That's true.
That is, and he's got options available. So to me, as disappointing, as angry as he might get at that, you know, if he can't do it at AAA, and Brandon Hyde's been, by the way, very clear about something. It's not, he says, not the results. It's the approach and the quality of at-bats. And clearly, 3 for 23. I mean, the one positive, I don't think he's got these gigantic strikeout numbers down there. So maybe he's making some contact. But it would not shock me at all if he were optioned to Norfolk.
Yeah, and doesn't he have 30 days for a rehab? Or is that just for guys who were on the 60-day IL?
I believe it is, or it's 20. It's 20.
I think we went over it yesterday, didn't we?
It's 20. Yeah, it's 20 for position players and batters, and then 30 for pitchers. So that's right. How long the rehab assignment can last.
And he's been down there about 10 days now.
I thought it was last Thursday or Saturday?
No, he's been down there. 10 or 11 days.
He went down there. He went down the same time as Mullins, and that was more than a week ago.
Oh, was that Wednesday? Oh, that was Wednesday or Thursday then.
Yeah, more than a week ago.
Okay.
Because Mullins came back last Saturday, and they had both accrued about 12 at bats prior to that before Mullins came up.
If they don't want to use an option on him, it's pretty clear. It looks like they're going to extend this stay to the max of 20 days. You know.
Yeah, surprisingly, he does have 4 walks in 6 games down there, which is I wouldn't have expected that. And the 7 strikeouts is still about a 25% strikeout rate, but when you factor in the idea that he had it's about the same. He's about a 25%.
7 to 4 is a very acceptable ratio.
That absolutely is. If he can continue that.
The question's when it's 55 to 11. That's not as acceptable. That's 5 times more strikeouts than walks.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's why his on-base percentage is in the 260s.
Yeah, and for somebody who's expected to hit in the middle of the Orioles' order, he absolutely needs to have a far better approach. He can't lay off the high fastball or the low and away slider to save his life. And Stan, we're talking about the offense, and you mentioned to me when I brought this name up to you that, well, what do you do with Aaron Hicks? At what point do you look at what Colton Cowser is doing in the minor leagues and say, you know what, it's time to bring him up? Maybe Hicks becomes your 4th outfielder. You move Santander to first base, and you see what Cowser can give you because he's, in my opinion, has nothing left to prove down at the minor league level. All he does is hit and get on base.
Yeah. Look, people a week ago, everybody was clamoring for Jordan Westburg, and now we have him, and we see looks like he's going to be a really fine, solid addition, both offensively and defensively.
Yep.
They're coming to a point where they're going to have tough decisions to make, and one of those decisions could be something to do with Adam Frazier. That could have to do with Jorge Mateo, but they certainly have a slew of infielders, and there seems to be a spot for an offensive player on this team right now, and it can't be it has to be at the expense of either McKenna, Mateo, or Frazier.
Yeah,
and that's the needle Mike Elias has got a thread right here. It looks to me like Mateo's speed is such a factor, even if they just want to use him as a late inning pinch runner, type of thing, and defensive replacement. But Frazier, as big as some of his home runs have been, and you factor in how much Hyde likes McKenna, I don't know where the push is, which way that's going to go. But it would seem like it would be one of those 2 players. You
would think it would have to be. The big albatross is the $8 million contract hanging around Adam Frazier's neck right now.
Unless they can look. We've thought for 2 seasons now that Mateo, if he really could get his offense together to be just like a 260 hitter and a 310 on base percentage guy, he'd be a star.
Yeah. Oh, he absolutely would be.
But maybe he's got value enough to get us that middle relief pitcher or bridge, 7th or 8th inning guy, where a team wants to take that opportunity. I don't know every position every team has, but say the St. Louis Cardinals, for example, say that they're in the perfect situation to assess him and work with him, and in games that don't mean anything the second half of the year. Maybe there's a team out there that we match up with and could get a guy like the Braves got Joe Jimenez from the Tigers, somebody like that the Orioles see. And I'll tell you a name that's out there, guys and gals that are listening. There's a guy that's at Norfolk right now, and I'm not going to say I've been on top of this. A friend of mine pointed out this guy, Wanderson Charles. He's no relationship to Stan Charles, but he apparently was a pretty highly thought of prospect a number of years ago. May have been with Oakland, but he has been flashing sort of near Bautista-like speed with his fastball at Bowie. He just got elevated to Norfolk, and his first couple appearances there were shutout innings there. Wanderson Charles. That could be somebody that the Orioles have in-house.
Yeah, we
said before, who will they bring up,
Yeah, he's got a 29-5 strikeout to walk ratio this year in the minors with a .696 WHIP and a 1.93 ERA. That's somebody who maybe could help this team. Felix Bautista started the 2020 the 2021 season.
Like an afterthought. He was like an afterthought at the beginning of the year last year.
He started in high A and made it to the major leagues by mid-season, and then became one of the Orioles' best relievers. Now he's potentially an all-star closer. If I'm not saying you're going to get the same thing out of Wanderson what's his name? Wanderson Charles. Is that what you said it was? Wanderson Charles. But if he can come in and really help that bullpen, because I think, Stan, we can be.
How about if he comes in and is more consistent than Brian Baker?
I don't know that that's hard to do, but I would love to see it. Brian Baker has just been so wildly inconsistent in his tenure with the Orioles. I would love to see somebody come in who can do a little bit better of a job. So we'll certainly see how it goes down. I think we're all in agreement that the Orioles' biggest issue right now is middle relief, because if these starters are only going 5 innings, they need to have guys that can bridge the gap to Coulombe, Cano, and Bautista, and right now they don't have that guy. So
tonight it's Kyle Bradish tonight against Bailey Over. Over is on my fantasy baseball team, so it's hard to root against them, but I'm rooting for the Orioles. I think this is a big game tonight. I don't want this losing streak to suddenly creep up into the 5 or 6 range.
Yeah, especially
so far the club has done a real good job at keeping those losing streaks very limited.
Yeah, they've got to figure it out today, because they go against Sonny Gray tomorrow, and that's no small task. So hopefully they can get it together, get a win tonight, and roll the dice tomorrow. Sam, what do you got coming up this week?
Right. No baseball show, and Gary and I will be on next Thursday. Haven't decided upon a guest yet. All
right, sounds good. Be sure to tune in. Stan, enjoy your 4th of July holiday. We'll talk to you next week.
Same to you guys. Good talking to you always.
You too.
Bye.
Take care. And that was Stan the Fan, Charles, who has changed up the format for his weekly shows. Now, every Monday at 6 p.m., Stan will be joined by former Orioles pitcher Ross Grimsley and Press Box's managing editor Luke Jackson to break down the latest with the Birds. Every Thursday night, Stan and Gary Stein will chat with a different newsmaker from the world of sports. This week, Bill Ordine subbed for Gary as he and Stan caught up with Superbook oddsmaker Jay Cornegay. You can watch the shows live at facebook.com/pressbox or find them the next day at pressboxonline.com/video and youtube.com/pressboxonline. As Stan just alluded to, no show this Monday because of the 4th of July holiday, but you can join Stan and Gary again this Thursday night. Guest to be determined. Griffin, did you come up with a sounding off segment?
Yeah, I think I have one.
All right,
I think I have a good one.
Time for sounding off with Griffin Bass before we catch our first break here. What do you got for us today?
So what I'm very disappointed about for the sport of baseball is the Los Angeles Angels.
Okay.
I think they have to be one of the most disappointing teams in all of baseball, especially over the past 10 to 15 years.
Evergreen.
Yeah. They have the most exciting players in the game right now, and they have absolutely nothing to show for it. And last night the point gets completely, what's the word? I guess emphasized. That might be the word. But Ohtani hits a 500-foot bomb. That's the highlight. Anyone who's a non-diehard baseball fan, that's the highlight they're going to see today. Is Ohtani hitting a 500-foot, 493-foot home run. But a near 500-foot home run in a game that they lost 6-2.
Yeah.
And that's really been the story of them for probably the last better part of more than a decade. They had Albert Pujols, the best player from the 2000s decade. They have Mike Trout, the best player from the 2010s decade. Now they have Shohei Ohtani, who might be the greatest player of all time, albeit short sample size here. But every single night it feels like it's must-watch baseball. They're going to do something that you've never seen before, has only been done once or twice before. And they're just a bad baseball team. They're not going to make the playoffs. And when we talk about, things that might be bad for baseball, I think, and we talk about the Orioles or the Pirates or the Tigers who have been bad the last 5 years, and tanking, whether they're really tanking or not. The Angels, I feel like, have to be far worse for baseball than anything that the Tigers, the Orioles, or the Pirates have done. As those teams try to, and the Orioles have appear to have turned a corner and look like they may have are very much on the better side of that now. But when you talk about who you're going to see in October, that when everyone in the world everyone in the world, but most people are now caring about baseball and paying attention. Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, they're nowhere to be found. These are the stars of the game. And
Mike Trout has one playoff series to his resume. Shohei Ohtani's never been in the playoffs, and it's funny, man, that you bring it up because you see that tweet all the time where it's like, it's always something like, Shohei Ohtani does something that nobody's done since Tungsten Armstrong in 1886.
Tungsten Arm Doyle.
Tungsten Arm Doyle.
Yeah.
And Mike Trout hit 2 home runs, and the Angels lose 8-3.
Right.
And then ESPN got in on it the other day when they said it was something like Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani became the first pair of teammates to hit back-to-back triples in the first inning for the since 2007, something like that.
Yeah.
The Angels currently trail 6-2.
Yep.
And it's the same thing. It's a running joke because it's the truth. To my knowledge, I have never seen a franchise more snake-bitten by long-term contracts. You go back to C.J. Wilson, they got nothing out of him. You go back to Josh Hamilton, they got nothing out of him. Albert Pujols wasn't even half the player in L.A. that he was in St. Louis. They've got nothing out of Anthony Rendon. These are these huge contracts that they're signing these guys to, and then they're just not performing, and they're not staying on the field. Rendon, to me, is one of the biggest disappointments of all time because I love that guy. I wanted the Orioles to draft him. They ended up drafting Manny Machado, and that worked out for the Orioles pretty well until it didn't. But I loved Anthony Rendon, and then I thought he should have been the NL MVP in 2019. He was the heart and soul of that World Series championship Nationals team. They let him go to the Los Angeles Angels, and he's been nothing. He's given them nothing. And the one thing you remember of him this season
is him trying to fight a fan.
Is him trying to fight a fan, trying to slap the guy.
Yeah.
Like, it's been such a debacle out there in L.A. for them. And, they're 44-40.
But no one has any faith that they are going to stick around and be in this by even maybe August.
One guy on Twitter last night said he thinks that the Angels are going to win more than 92 games this year. And I'm like, I don't know what Angels team you're talking about.
I think what have they been over 500 like once in the past decade?
Yeah, maybe? Man, it's crazy. You have 2 of the greatest players to ever walk God's green earth, and one of them's never been to the playoffs, and one of them has been to the playoffs one time. It's a great sounding off segment because the Angels, they're mystery to me.
They could be they should be must-watch baseball every single night. I took a vacation out to California a couple weeks ago, and I had a chance to go to the Angels game, and it was amazing. They're able to fill up that stadium pretty good. I'm not sure what the actual capacity is, but they had close to 40,000 on a Saturday night. Ohtani was pitching, and that entire stadium stops whenever Mike Trout and Ohtani hit back-to-back. Whenever those two are up, they flash the lights. Everybody pulls their phone out. Everyone is locked in. They want to see what's going to happen. Ohtani was pitching. He got 10. It was a classic Angels game because Ohtani got 10 strikeouts. He stole a base later in the game. It was amazing, and they blew the game in extra innings and lost.
Yeah,
and that is just what the Angels are for feels like the past 10 years.
I do like to hang my hat on the fact that I have been to an Orioles game in Camden Yards where I've seen Barry Bonds hit a home run and I've seen Shohei Ohtani hit a home run.
Wow.
So I don't know how many people get to say that.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, and you talk about the Angels, that's a team that needs an infielder. Zach Neto is on the 10-day IL. They're not getting anything out of Anthony Rendon. That's a team that could probably use.
What is he on his 3rd IL stint already or something? Or is he just off the IL?
He's just off the IL. He's played in 39 games this year, which is about par for the course for Rendon for an entire season these days. But they need somebody to come in there to play some infield for them. Maybe a Ramon Arias who can give them elite-level defense and hold his own with the bat. He's not great with the bat, but he's not going to hit 230. He's probably going to hit 260 with maybe a 3 .320 on base percentage. Not going to give you much power, but he's going to give you better than what you've gotten out of your infield to this point. So that's something to think about there for the Angels and for the Orioles, and maybe they could find some kind of relief pitcher, some help.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Obviously I haven't looked too closely at the Angels. They don't strike me as a team that would be selling. I mean, they can't. They're 4 games over 500.
Right. I don't know that they're selling, but they've got.
But what could Joey Ortiz do for them, and what could we get in return for something like that?
I don't want to give up Joey Ortiz.
Yeah, I guess this is another conversation. But the logjam that the Orioles have obviously makes
the logjam that they have, and I've been saying since spring training when they signed Adam Frazier, actually back before the winter meetings, it made no sense to me. It made no sense to me then. It still makes no sense to me now because they have this logjam. They have these major league ready infielders in their system. In Westberg and Ortiz, Norby, and you're looking at these guys and you're like, they're better than Frazier, they're better than Mateo. I mean, Ortiz, you cannot convince me that Joey Ortiz is not a better player than Jorge Mateo. The glove's just as good. The range not as great because whose range is as good as one of the fastest guys in the league, but the glove's just as good.
Right.
The bat, he's played now parts of 2 seasons at AAA. He's batting .345 with a 400 on base percentage in his time at AAA.
He deserves a shot, and it needs to be somewhere. It'd be great if it was with the Orioles. It seems like they are reluctant to do that. Give him solid playing time. So if they're not going to do that, make him useful in another way, and that's getting some high leverage reliever from somewhere that
absolutely
needs a Joey Ortiz.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that in Orioles banter in the 11 o'clock hour. In the meantime, we do have to catch our first break. When we come back, we are going to do the payoff pitch around the league plus Orioles banter. That's next on the Bat Around.
Another exciting weekend of affordable family fun at Prince George's Stadium with the Bowie Bay Sox. It's our Independence Weekend celebration starting on Friday the 30th with our Pride Night. A special ticket package gets you a Bay Sox rainbow hat, and then July 1st through 3rd, major fireworks shows each and every night with a special jersey auction on sale. Get your tickets now by calling 301-805-6000 or anytime online at baysox.com. The Bowie Bay Sox. Let us be your 9-inning vacation.
The All-America Senior Game powered by New Balance will be back at Johns Hopkins Homewood Field on July 29th. The most decorated girls and boys lacrosse players in the country have been invited to play in what is the premier lacrosse event of the year. Every college coach wants their players in this game, and if you dream of being in this game, you start by trying out for one of your regional underclass teams this summer. The best against the best. Get your tickets now at allamericalacrosse.com.
Are you a diehard O's fan looking for the perfect way to show your team spirit? Look no further than Birdland Sports. Birdland Sports is a small business run by fans for fans. They offer a wide variety of unofficial O's merchandise, from the Birds Are Coming tees to player cartoon shirts and more. And the best part? Their prices are more affordable than the big guys. So head to birdlandsports.com and grab your gear today. Show your support for the Birds with Birdland Sports.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Dave Ginsburg remembers Goose as he looks back on the impact that late Tony Saragusa had both on and off the field here in Baltimore. Plus, he explains how Goose's kids are working to continue that legacy with the Goose Flights program. Also inside, Todd Karpovich profiles the path Tyler Wells has taken to becoming a star in the Orioles rotation. And you'll find a special summer travel guide with information about events and activities throughout the state. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Hey, O's fans, cheer on the Orioles against the Minnesota Twins at 7:05 on Friday, June 30th at Camden Yards. Be one of the first 20,000 fans 21 and over to receive an Orioles floppy hat presented by Miller Lite and enjoy a fun-filled Floppy Friday at the Yard. Don't miss out on one of your favorite giveaways and stay post-game for the Birdland Summer Music Series presented by Miller Lite with DJ Diesel, a.k.a. Shaquille O'Neal. Purchase your tickets today at Orioles.com/tickets.
It's a Maryland thing you wouldn't understand.
Where the waves meet the shore, you will find Dorchester County. Hi, this is Jimmy Charles. When I think of Maryland, I think Dorchester County on the eastern shore where it's open for making memories. Dorchester County, it's a Maryland thing. For more info, visit www.visitdorchester.org.
It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah. It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah.
If you miss anything on the show, don't forget that you can watch full episodes at youtube.com/pressboxonline, and you can download podcasts on Apple, iTunes, Amazon, and Grindr. Wait, did I say Grindr? I don't think that you would find it on Grindr. Not that I know what's on Grindr or anything, I swear. On second thought, you know what? I don't care what you think. Here's Glenn. That's so funny. That was a Glenn Clark radio.
Yeah, that was a regional winner. Is that the...
Did I send that one to you in the email? Because I just forwarded the email that Glenn sent to me.
Okay,
maybe.
so there might be a little bit of confusion there somewhere.
Let me,
Let's see if we...
Yep, he gave me all the GCR breaks. He gave me all the
okay.
Because
I just noticed that too, so I did email him. We'll see if we can't figure that out. That out for the second hour of the show.
No big deal. The first hour of the show was again brought to you by PressBox Offers. PressBox is offering new sports bettors the best sign-up bonuses and promos from 7 legal online sports books. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers now. Get offers like $150 in bonus bets from DraftKings after placing your first $10 bet, or up to $1,250 in bonus bets from Caesars. Time is limited to get the best offers from all of the sports books. So go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers and sign up today. Now it is time for the payoff pitch around, if I can find it, this happens every day. The payoff pitch around the league. The Orioles' pitching woes continued as Dean Kremer allowed 7 runs on 7 hits in just 3 innings, and the offense left their bats in the clubhouse as the Twins thrashed the Birds 8-1. Nick Madrigal and Chris Morrell each homered, and Nico Horner collected 3 hits to pace the offense behind 6 1/3 shutout innings from Justin Steele as the Cubs crushed the Guardians 10-1. The Reds stayed red hot, getting home runs from Tyler Stevenson, Matt McClain, and Spencer Steer, while Graham Ashcraft allowed 1 earned run in 6 2/3 to send the reeling Padres to their sixth straight loss.
Talk about more disappointing teams.
Oh, my gosh. Manny Machado, 0 for 5, and it now has a 678 OPS on the season. Josiah Gray, Josiah Gray struck out 8, allowing 1 run in 6 innings, and Stone Garrett provided all the offense with a second inning 2-run shot as National stopped the Phillies 2-1. Josiah Gray and Stone Garrett, what a collection of names there. Trailing 7-3 entering the home half of the 7th, the Pirates scored 1 in the 7th, 1 in the 8th, and 3 in the 9th, the last 2 in a walk-off home run from Carlos Santana to shock the Brewers 8-7. Justin Turner homered, as did Masataka Yoshida amongst his 3 hits, and James Paxton continued his resurgence with 7 2/3 shutout innings on just 3 hits as the Bo Sox shut down the Blue Jays 5-0. Patrick Bailey hit a big 8th inning 3-run homer off the previously stellar David Robertson to turn a 2-run deficit into a 1-run lead as the Giants kept the Mets' misery going with a 5-4 come-from-behind victory. I almost did that game before it was over when the Mets were up 4-2, and I was like, no, it's the Mets. They're going to blow it. They're going to blow it, and sure enough, they did. Eddie Rosario, Sean Murphy, Austin Riley, and Matt Olson all homered and drove in at least 3, the latter leading the way with 2 bombs and 5 ribeyes as the Braves crushed the Marlins 16-4 to snap their win streak at 5. The Texas Rangers traded for Aroldis Chapman to fend off the Astros and suffered instant karma for acquiring a steaming pile of human crap that likes to beat on women, losing to the Astros 5-3. Jose Altuve homered in the victory. Ezequiel Tovar homered and drove in 3 to back 7 innings from starter Austin Gomer in the Rockies' 8-5 victory over the Tigers. Mookie Betts homered twice, finishing a triple shy of the cycle while driving in 4 to lead the Dodgers past the soul-cleansed Chapman-less Royals 8-3. I don't like Aroldis Chapman. I don't know if you know that.
I'm starting to get that sense, yeah.
Shohei Ohtani hit his 30th homer, a 493-foot shot, but that was a highlight for the Angels as they fell to the D-backs 6-2. Lourdes Gurriel hit a grand slam to provide the difference for Arizona. Luis Medina allowed 1 run in 5 innings, and Carlos Perez homered to lead the A's over the White Sox 7-4. Randy Arozarena, Jose Siri, and Josh Lowe homered, and the Rays scored 8 runs in the 8th to smoke the Mariners 7-4. The New York Yankees and St. Louis Cardinals were postponed due to rain. The game will be made up as part of a doubleheader beginning at 2:15 today. Griffin, do you want to read what's on tap, or do you want me to do that?
Yeah, I think I can give it a shot here. So we'll start with at 1:40 today. The Padres are going to take on those red-hot Cincinnati Reds. They'll try to get back on track as Michael Wacha takes on Brandon Williamson, who was the last pitcher that the Orioles, I guess, were able to beat. 2:15, game one of the doubleheader. The Yankees look to pick up some ground in the wild card and the AL East races. They send Luis Severino in game one of the doubleheader with the St. Louis Cardinals, who will be throwing Jack Flaherty in a battle of reeling former aces. Boston Red Sox at the Blue Jays. Cutter Crawford on the mound for Boston. Yusei Kikuchi square off as the Red Sox look to continue to climb out of the AL East cellar against the fourth place but third wild card Blue Jays. That's at 3:07. The Twins, they will be taking on the Baltimore Orioles. Bailey Ober, as we talked about, takes on Kyle Bradish, Bradish looks to stop the Orioles bleeding against the Twins. That's at 4:05. A couple games here at 4:05. Nationals will take on the Phillies. Mackenzie Gore and the Nats take on Zach Wheeler. Then Corbin Burns will take the hill for the Brewers, while the Pirates counter with Johan Oviedo as they try to get back in the NL Central race. Also 4:05. Hunter Brown and Nathan Eovaldi. Go Hunter Brown. He's on my fantasy team, so I'll do the stand bit there. Meeting the AL West battle between the Stros and the Rangers at 4:05. Chicago White Sox at the Oakland A's. Dylan Cease in his 2.20 June ERA take on James Kaprielian. Is that how I say it? How do you say it?
I think that's correct.
James Kaprielian. In a game that matters to no one outside of Oakland and the south side of Chicago. That's at 4:07. Don't get confused. There's a couple 4:05 starts, then a 4:07. 4:10, Miami at Atlanta. The Marlins look to start a new winning streak. They'll send Yuri Perez against Charlie Morton, also my fantasy team. So just more rooting interest for me at MLB Best Braves, or the National League Best Braves. That's at 4:10. San Francisco at New York. Anthony DeSclafani and Justin Verlander battle as the Giants take on the Mets. 4:10 in Queens. Then into the nighttime slate. Tanner Bibby. Tanner. Is it Bibby or Bibby? Bibby. Tanner Bibby and the Guardians square off against Marco Stroman and the Cubs. 7:15. Both teams, despite their sub-500 records, look to stay in the thick of their respective division races in the NL Central and NL East. Dodgers have yet to announce their starters. They take on Daniel Lynch and the. Have they announced a starter yet?
Yeah, I wrote these last night before the Rays game ended, and that was one of the things.
Looks like it's going to be Julio Urias for the Dodgers.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, big start for them against Daniel Lynch and the Royals in Kansas City. Tampa at Seattle. Tyler Glasnow will go to the mound against George Kirby. Another good pitching matchup in the Tampa-Seattle after McClanahan and Bryce Miller yesterday. Game 2 of the Yankees-Cardinals doubleheader is slated to start at 7:15. The Yankees they probably haven't announced this Game 2 starter, have they? Or maybe they have at this point.
They had, so it was supposed to be the Yankees. They have not announced a starter for Game 2, and the Cardinals originally had Matthew Liberatore,
and they scratched.
But now it says to be determined.
All right, so we'll see. Keep your eyes peeled on that one. 9-10 in what should be a riveting game. 2 TBD pitchers between Colorado and Detroit. That one's in the Rockies. Game starts at 9:10 for, I'm not sure who would care about that one. 10:07, my uncle, he lives in Colorado. And finally, Ryan Nelson and Tyler Anderson face off for the D-backs and Angels at 10:07. And
you don't have to read that. That's just a note.
I'll keep the.
I put in the final note. I put, thank God Zach does this every week, because between last night's recaps and today's matchups, this segment alone took me close to 2 hours to do the payoff pitch around the league and what's on tap next.
Well, good work. Thank you for letting me, read through your copy there.
Absolutely, man. We like to be an interactive show, man. So I want my you're filling in for my co-host and producer, so I want you to fill the role of the co-host. So I like to give you some talking points here.
Appreciate it.
Now it's time for Orioles banter. Orioles banter today, brought to you by, it's brought to you by me, because we only have one read left, and I want to save it for a break or something. So we're talking kind of down on the farm, and we're talking about our ideal roster. We've already talked about Heston Kjerstad. He's having a really nice start at AAA. That guy's knocking on the door. Colton Cowser's knocking on the door. Jackson Holliday hit a walk-off home run for Aberdeen last night. And it's funny because we have Jim Callis coming on the show at 11:40 to talk about some Orioles prospects and then the upcoming draft. And in my notes, I put Jackson Holliday after he had a tremendous start to the year, And then he hit 372 with a 500 on base percentage through May between two different levels. And then in June, he hit just 225 with a 380 on base percentage heading into last night's
380 on base, not bad.
380 on base is really good. The 225 batting average leaves much to be desired. Then he goes out. I think he's on like a 7-game hitting streak now. And he hits a walk-off home run last night just to make me shut the hell up for a little bit here. But the Orioles, the number one farm system in baseball, Jackson Holliday, the new number one overall prospect in baseball. And then you look at the Orioles Major League team, and you've got Adam Frazier still playing more often than not at second base. Mateo still plays a good bit at shortstop. You've called up Jordan Westberg. Ramon Arias is getting some run at first base and at third base. He'll play second every now and again. Your outfield, believe it or not, the Orioles, although Cedric Mullins has really struggled since his 5-hit game back on May 21st, the Orioles' outfield is one of the most productive outfields in baseball. Now, I haven't looked at this in depth, but how could it not be?
Right, yeah. I mean, Austin Hayes definitely helps with that. He's he's the best hitter in the American League based on average. And then, Santander's been probably the most consistent guy up and down the lineup all season.
Yeah.
You know what you're – I mean, I guess he had, one bad stretch where the 1 for 25. I guess he's pulled off this week too.
April was really bad.
Yeah.
April was really bad, but it was actually better than his April from last year. But May and June, he was really good. Started June slow, but then he got really hot, and he ended it a little slow. But the entire roster, and we'll get to that in a second, the entire roster
is
ended slow.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Colton Cowser's knocking on the door, and people are like, "Where's Cowser? Where's Cowser?" Well, the problem with that is you have Hayes, who's one of the top hitters in the American League in left field. You've got Cedric Mullins, who was having an all-star caliber season before he got hurt, and he's got off to a slow start since returning, but he's an all-star center fielder. Anthony Santander leads your team in home runs and RBIs. He's a switch hitter who's having a career year this year. And then Aaron Hicks is hitting 270 with like a 400 on base percentage since coming to the Orioles. So you love Colton Cowser. Who are you going to play him over? And these guys are having success at the big league level. You're not going to promote a prospect and bench one of those guys.
I'd be very fine with, Santander becomes, a platoon guy at first base and your everyday DH, and then Aaron Hicks just slots into the fourth outfielder spot. I think, and Stan brings up that Brandon Hyde has a thing for Ryan McKenna. He has to go. He has to go. There's just not room for him. The walk-off homer last Saturday, fantastic. Maybe the perfect time to send him down, so we have a good taste in our mouths from the Ryan McKenna era. But injuries are going to happen, so that leaves room for him if he, I guess, he has options left, right?
McKenna, he has
okay,
options
so he wouldn't be DFA'd, and I guess I'm sure he would accept an assignment anyway if he were DFA'd. So he'll stick around, and you'll have him as your fifth outfielder option if something is to happen. Maybe Cowser does struggle when he gets up, and you want Cowser to go back to AAA to reset, and then McKenna's still around. There's really it just doesn't seem like there's any reason for Cowser not to be here.
Well, you got a clear room on the 40-man, so you would probably have to DFA somebody.
Well, maybe Keegan Aiken just becomes an IL 60.
Yeah, which you could do that too. They had to clear room for Westberg. They were able to do that. That wasn't a difficult thing. That was a pretty obvious move. And then also sending down Ortiz was the obvious move. Then you're looking at Cowser. You'll find a way to get him onto the 40-man roster.
Right.
But then, and like you said, that was a thought that went through my head, is Anthony Santander would move to first base and DH. Ryan O'Hearn becomes more of a platoon guy, which is what he should be. I'm about to sneeze, I think. And because I said that's probably going to go. Nope. No, it went away.
Okay.
It went away. I knew it was going to go away just because I mentioned it. But yeah, having Cowser play right field, you basically have 3 center fielders in your outfield now at that point if you call up Cowser. And then Aaron Hicks can play center field. He becomes your 4th outfielder, which, look, we're already seeing the other shoe drop with Ryan O'Hearn. And people go through slumps, right? He was so mega hot the first 3 weeks of June that you knew a 3 for 20 stretch was probably coming. But the problem is that he doesn't even look like he has a clue at the plate.
Yeah, he's starting to look like a little bit like Ryan Mountcastle-itis,
Yeah. Exactly.
He gets ahead in counts and then somehow finds a way to fall back.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He still will hit the ball hard every now and again.
Right.
But for the most part, it's not like his swing still looks great and he's just having some bad luck or popping some things up. He looks lost at the plate. Hopefully he can bounce back, and maybe when they get him into more of a platoon role like he was in before Mountcastle started really struggling and then got vertigo, that would be his ideal role. Because right now he's hitting cleanup on the team.
And it doesn't seem
like that. My whole thing, and I've been saying for the last month, is that I think that the Orioles need to have Rutschman hit third. Rutschman second. Probably.
You talked about, Adley on the bat stretch that he's on. What did you say? He's batting 220, 25 over the month?
221 with a 298 on base percentage since the beginning of June.
Okay, yeah, not ideal. Is there any reason to think that we would ever move him out of the second spot, just to whether that maybe that helps kickstart him in some way, but move him down to, even if it's third or fifth?
Even though he's still young and he's only been in the big leagues for about a calendar year,
you leave him there.
You trust that he's going to – I mean, he was number 1 overall pick in the draft.
Right.
He's going to be an all-star this year. You trust that he's going to find a way to snap out of it. And you look at what he did in April. He looked like one of the best hitters on the planet. And, May he was pretty good too. June he has really struggled. Hopefully with the calendar turning to July, getting a little more heat and humidity out there, maybe the ball start going a little bit further. But I have confidence that Rutschman will figure it out. He's too good of a player not to. You don't hit 400 in college and then not be able to figure it out if you're the first overall pick.
Basically 2 days off kind of after he DH'd yesterday, which isn't a day off. But, he didn't have to catch Thursday or yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a smart move on Hyde's part. And so you can see Rutschman catch today and probably again tomorrow because you have a 4 o'clock game followed by a 12 o'clock game. So you're hopeful that you'll see him do that, and maybe having Rutschman catch both games. Although his arm has been so bad.
And we talked about this earlier in the week with Glenn Stan and I, and the pitchers really aren't doing a whole lot to help him. That they are not helping control the run game in any way. I mean, Tyler Wells obviously a long delivery. He's very tall. It takes a while for him to get to the plate. Bautista, Cano also big guys. It takes a while for them to get to the plate. He's not getting a whole lot of help. They did just face the Reds, and the Reds will expose just about every single team on the base paths. Yeah. It has not been great. I think we looked at the stat. I think he's 9 for 51 on base stealers, which is not ideal.
And I haven't seen him throw. I can't remember the last time I saw him throw out a base runner. And I think he's something like 2 for his last 28. Or something like that. It's been a really rough stretch. Some of that's his fault. Some of that's on the pitchers, like you said. And I noted it myself on the show a couple of weeks back that Tyler Wells at 6'8", Yanier Cano at 6'5", and Felix Bautista at 6'8" with their big long deliveries, like you just said. They have a hard time holding runners. Although Tyler Wells, I think they've only had 2 or 3 stolen base attempts against him all season.
His whip is below 1, so he doesn't put a whole lot of guys on. And
That's true.
The guys that are getting on are going all 4 bases.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a lot of 4 baggers for him for sure. But you look at this team's offense as a whole since the beginning of June. Adley Rutschman, 221, 295, 337, 632 OPS. Anthony Santander, 240, 263. Adam Frazier, 191, 273. Jorge Mateo, 196, 250. Ramon Arias, 262, 290. Cedric Mullins, since his 5-hit game on May 21st, 158, 298. Gunnar Henderson in 11 games since his 4 consecutive multi-hit games. And this is going into last night, so this isn't accounting for what they did last night. No
one did it. I mean, Adley hit the homer. That was...
Yeah, they had 4 hits. Hayes had 2 of them. Gunnar Henderson, since the 4 consecutive multi-hit games, 238 and 289. Ryan O'Hearn, 3 for his last 20. The entire team, outside of Austin Hayes, has gone ice cold for 2+ weeks at the exact same time. It might be time to infuse this lineup with a little bit of talent in Colton Cowser. I don't know that they're going to go out and try and get a bat.
I don't think so either.
I've been pining for J.D. Martinez. I wanted them to sign him in the offseason. He's having a really nice year for the Dodgers, but they're not going to give him up.
Just any right-handed bat, though, does kind of scare you a little bit with the wall and left now. That's what I still do like about O'Hearn. I think he brings slightly more to the lineup as a left-handed hitter every single day, more than Mountcastle, just because that wall is really
It takes away the threat of the Apotaco from a left-handed batter. It makes some right-handed hitters, Mountcastle namely, really, really struggle.
Trey Mancini last year.
Trey Mancini last year had 5 home runs robbed from that wall. That why do I keep saying the wrong letters? That wall from that wall. But then the other thing, the reason I wanted J.D. Martinez is because he's so good at going opposite field. The majority of his home runs, and now I haven't seen a lot of his home runs this year, but the majority of his home runs in his career go to the opposite field. He's really great with power to the right side. If you go back to his 48 home run season, I think like 34 of them were to right field. He hits a ton of opposite field home runs. So he kind of gives you that middle of the order presence that is kind of like a left-handed bat. The other one that I really wanted before he hurt his wrist was Charlie Blackmon. Charlie Blackmon hits over 300 against left-handed pitching in his career as a left-handed batter. And this year, when he got hurt, was hitting 275 from both sides of the plate. I mean, against both sides of the pitching mound. So that was a guy that I really thought, he's in the final year of his contract. J.D. Martinez in the final year of his contract. Those are guys that you could add to this team. A veteran presence. They know how to play in big games. And they have the ability. You have the ability to squeeze the last bit of juice out of those guys who are looking to make a pennant chase.
Yeah,
and those guys to me were ideal. J.D. Martinez has been too good for the Dodgers. They're not getting rid of him, and Charlie Blackmon, he's hurt.
Yeah, that it is disappointing that it would have been very nice if they got a J.D. Martinez type. Like he would have had that kind of Nelson Cruz, Mark Trumbo role.
Right.
The Orioles.
$11 million, you can do that. Yeah. You give Kyle Gibson $10 million.
Give Adam Frazier $8 million.
Yeah, you can give J.D. Martinez $11 million. But the thing is, I heard that he had better offers and he took less to play with the Dodgers, so he could go into a lineup where he has more protection and prove over a 1 year make good deal that he's still a quality player.
Yeah, almost started the All-Star game.
Yeah, he could still make it. You know, but you look at that and what he's doing this year, he's going to get paid in the offseason. It's probably not going to be paid, but he could still get another 3-year, $45 million deal after this season. He's still in his mid-30s, and if the age, there's no such thing as age anymore. You look at Tom Brady being a quarterback till he's 46 years old.
He's 35 this season.
Yeah.
J.D. Martinez.
Yeah. Nelson Cruz is 43, 44. He's still playing for the Padres. There's plenty of guys who have proven that age is just a number. Now, at some point, Father Time catches up to all of us, but that might not be happening soon for J.D. Martinez. So I do think the Orioles need to add a bat. I don't think they will. I think they're going to really, really focus in on the reliever market. I don't think they're going to give up what it's going to take to get a starting pitcher. I think they value some of these guys way too much. Guys like, and I don't know what kind of a quality starting pitcher you're getting for Joey Ortiz and, say, Kobe Mayo or Joey Ortiz and Heston Kjerstad. You know what I mean?
We talked a lot this week about Dylan Cease. Is he someone that you would be interested in? I mean, that would obviously take a package to land a Dylan Cease.
Dylan Cease is what you hope DL Hall can be, right? He's a guy who's had command issues, but when he's in the zone, he strikes out everybody. He pitches to a low ERA. He was second in Cy Young voting last year. I picked him to win the Cy Young this year, and got off to a slow start. But in his last,
as we just mentioned, going around the horn, it was 2.20 ERA in the month of June.
Yeah, so. Exactly. So he's really, and his last,
he had 10 strikeouts Monday night.
He has 29 strikeouts his last 3 starts. 10, 9, and 10 the last 3 starts. So Dylan, I'll take that. Dylan Cease certainly looks like he's rounding back into form. It just sucks that it's for a team that's going nowhere in the Chicago White Sox, which is so crazy to me because if you look at their rotation and you look at their lineup, they should be way better than what they are. But they get a lot of injuries, a lot of Michael Kopech, Lance Lynn, and Dylan Cease have all underperformed this year. And I thought they were going to be a playoff contender this year. They've really shocked me in all the wrong ways. But I don't know, man. So I look at this team as a whole, and we want the ideal roster for the Baltimore Orioles. And for me, look, I was somebody told me that I would look foolish if I were to argue that the Orioles should be playing Joey Ortiz at shortstop every day. Now, look, he just got sent down. He can't come back up for 15 days unless there's an injury. I was disappointed when they called up. I was happy they called up Westberg. I was disappointed that the roster move was to send down Joey Ortiz because you can't convince me his bat can't be better and his on-base percentage can't be better than Jorge Mateo. You can't convince me that his glove is worse. And for me, the most exciting Orioles infield, at least second through third base, you have Henderson at third base, Ortiz at shortstop, Westberg at second base. And then in your outfield, as we just discussed, you put Santander back over first base and DH every now and again, Calzer in right, Mullins in center, Hayes in left field, Hicks is your fourth outfielder. These are tough decisions, Griffin, that every team has to make, every good team has to make. And you get the feeling that the Orioles aren't making these moves at this point because they love their guys. To take an idiom from Buck Showalter, I love our guys. Everybody loves Jorge Mateo because of the electricity he brings to the game and the speed. Adam Frazier has hit some big home runs. A lot more people love Adam Frazier than probably should in this town. But you should be fielding the best possible team day in and day out. And what they've been doing for the last month isn't fielding the best possible team. June was not a hard schedule. The month of June was not a hard schedule. They should have won 6 more games than they did in June. I mean, they went 13-11 in the month, that's fine. It's above 500. But when you look at what they've got coming up in July, and you look at who they played in June, they should have been far better.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I think. And then you have a really strong. If that's the starting 9 that you just named, then you have a really strong bench because then it's O'Hearn, it's Mateo, and then Hicks is your 4th out, and then a backup catcher.
Right.
And that makes you. I think that makes you feel very, very strong about what you're putting out every day. It's really head scratching. I think I can understand. I think you have to keep Mateo. Because Mateo does bring so much defensively.
And on the base paths.
And because Gunner's future is as a third baseman, which I guess, that emphasizes your point of making Ortiz the everyday shortstop, so that way Gunner can focus on playing third. I don't love, having him go back and forth every other day between third and short. I like that it gives us the ability. And then Ramon Arias, what do we do with him? Because I just left him off the bench.
He's getting traded.
Yeah.
I think that you
just like international money, like what?
Well, no, I mean, there's gonna be somebody that I don't know that the Brewers are gonna stay in it all year. Maybe you reunite him with his brother in Milwaukee. I've been thinking about that a lot this year. We mentioned the Angels, and they have some decent relief pitchers, and maybe they would be willing to give up. But that would also be them kind of acknowledging that their season's done, and I don't know that they're ready to do that yet. But now you also have to question who brings more value in a trade, Ramon Arias or Jorge Mateo. And I think Jorge Mateo's value to the Orioles is much higher as a utility player and a late defensive replacement and a pinch runner. I think he's more valuable to the Orioles than he is in a trade with somebody else because nobody's going to trade for him to be a starter on their team, and unless it's a team that's really in the tanker, right? And Ramon Arias, yeah, he's going to hit maybe 250, 260. He's going to get on base at, like we said, 320, 330 clip. But he's not. He hit 16 home runs last year. He has 3 home runs this entire season, and one of them was on opening day. He doesn't drive the ball. He hits a lot of ground balls, but he plays great.
He does play
defense
great defense
at third base and at second base,
and maybe even he hasn't played a ton of first base, but that's a great flexibility, positional flexibility that he does provide.
He can pick it as good as anybody over there, and he can play shortstop in a pinch. He has played shortstop in the past, and that's a guy that you can put there in a pinch if you need to, and you can trust that he's going to make the plays that he should make. Maybe he doesn't have the same range that you want for a shortstop, but if you need him there in a pinch, he's going to make the routine ones every time. So I think that Ramon Arias is more valuable in the trade market than Jorge Mateo is at this point. I think that Adam Frazier has no value.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And yeah, you're probably right about Arias being more valuable in the trade market. Again, maybe you can package him with some top 10, 20 prospect in the Orioles system right now, and you can net a useful reliever. And that's the other thing is that just. It seems like somehow the Orioles are just pushing all the right buttons whenever they bring in a fresh arm. Whenever they bring in a fresh arm, we never heard of Ciano Perez until last year, and he was amazing last year. Like it seems like there's something in the water at Camden Yards where
one of the best relief seasons in Orioles history. Last year.
Yeah. And even Danny Coulomb this year, like we had no idea, that was a dart throw, and he's turned into maybe their second best reliever right now. Like right now, just as Cano's still great, but has
he's been a lot. There's been a lot more chinks in the armor recently.
Yes,
he's been living off that. Now look, he's still been good, but the way he started those first 14 games where he didn't allow a base runner, ever since then, the ERA is still well below 3. The whip is still good, not as good as it was. Obviously, you can't get better than 0. But he still gets guys out.
Yeah.
He still gets guys out, which is what you want from him. But honestly, I think you can make the argument that Danny Coulomb, if you look at his StatCast. Or what is it?
Baseball Savant.
Baseball Savant.
Yeah.
You look at his Baseball Savant page, he has a lot of red on his Baseball Savant page, man. He's been one of the best relievers in baseball this year. And for the Orioles, I mean, he's only walked 7 guys all year. He's been really good for them. It's an excellent point that you make about maybe he's their second reliever. Their back end is really good. I really just think that they're going to end up trading for middle relief help. And I really loved Rob Long's point about John Means.
Yeah, refresh me on Rob Long's point on John Means.
He said, with the limited innings, the innings limit that he's going to be on when he does come back, that's a guy you put into middle or long relief and just let him kind of get his innings that way because that's what the Orioles really need right now.
Yeah, and that is probably – I'm just worried about that we're thinking John Means might be we're expecting way more from John Means than what he might actually be able to provide. I mean, it's going to be like August. Is he really even going to be ready by August? Like, are we sure? Because he hasn't started any sort of
he was supposed to be ready by July before he had the
muscle strain
the muscle strain in his scapula, right? Which is no joke, man.
Right,
I pitch, and if my scapula hurts, man, it's really hard to pitch. And so they kind of pushed it back to hopefully by August. And Rob Long's point is, there's a lot of people that are thinking that John Means is going to be like a trade deadline acquisition for your starting rotation. He ain't going to be that guy.
Right.
He's not going to be no-hitter John Means.
Exactly.
By August. He won't be that guy again, maybe till middle of next season. You saw how long it took for Chris Sale to get back, and he still hasn't gotten back to being Chris Sale. So
he just went down again, I think.
Yeah,
didn't he?
I mean, you have no idea how John Means. You can just tell by the way that he's built that he's
he's a big guy.
Gym rat. He's in great shape. He takes care of himself. So you're confident that he can come back and do the things necessary to get back to where he once was. But that ain't happening this year,
right?
Especially with the setback, like you said, which is why it makes more sense to have him, instead of having him start a game and go 3 or 4 innings, have him be in long relief, middle relief, have him go out there and do what he can for an inning or two, or maybe 3.
Yeah, a great piggyback with Grayson. Grayson goes 5, and then or even 4 or 5, whatever you can get out of Grayson, I guess. Which I guess that's probably another conversation. What do we do with Grayson Rodriguez?
He's been shoving down there.
Yes,
he really has. He still gives up a home run every start, but he's been absolutely shoving down there. I think that maybe it's time. He's not that far away from getting called back up, and we're going to talk with Jim Callis about that here in just about 7 minutes, where we're going to see what else he needs to do to get back up here. But Grayson Rodriguez is one of the guys I'm factoring into the Orioles rotation for the stretch run here. And we're getting close to that stretch run. Why do the Orioles need to wait to the deadline to make a move?
Yeah. While we're talking about the farm, Justin Armbruster is very interesting. I like him a lot. Obviously, he's only made 2 AAA starts, but he went, I believe, 6 innings yesterday. I will pull up his full numbers from yesterday. He hit his second AAA start, 5 2/3. He allowed 2 runs. He had 7 strikeouts. He's had 7 strikeouts in his first 2 AAA starts. So 1 last week, 1 last night, and he only struck out 43 in 62 innings with Bowie so far this season. So interesting that his strikeout numbers are up. But he's one of those guys that kind of pitches to contact, and he'll just give you innings. Obviously, there's not a whole lot of hype around him. But if the Orioles are really struggling with the rotation as they are at the moment, and we obviously cannot trust Cole Irvin, I feel like that's something that might be he might be a guy to keep an eye on. Obviously, it'd be a quick jump. He's only made 2 starts at AAA.
Yeah.
And whether that he comes up in August or even later or even slightly before. But we've seen pitchers, the Mariners. Bryce Miller came straight from AA, and he was great in his first several starts for Seattle. And then I think George Kirby last year also came straight from AA for Seattle. Maybe it's just a Seattle thing, but guys can. Felix Bautista, as we just talked about, he jumped all the way up to the majors and was a lights out closer.
Oh, absolutely. And Jordan Armbruster, that's a good point.
Justin Armbruster.
I'm sorry, Justin Armbruster. I don't know why I said Jordan. Justin Armbruster.
Jordan Westberg, everybody. There's a lot of J's in the system. Joey Ortiz.
Exactly right. And you talk about Armbruster and solid college career. Mm-hmm. He's had nothing but success in professional baseball. 12th round pick in 2021 who's already at AAA. That's a guy who could be intriguing. I just don't know that he's a guy who's ready to help a big league club. He's more of a guy that if this was last year or 2021, you're like, all right, let's call this guy up and see what he can do in a handful of starts at the big league level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you'd definitely be asking a lot out of him.
And that's the other thing.
In the midst of a wild card pennant chase, in August.
That's what people also have to consider, man, is like, yeah, we want Westberg up here. We want Calzer up here. We want Kjerstad, Grayson, Armbruster. We want these guys up here. This is a team in contention for the playoffs. They're the number one wild card seed right now by a good bit. Do you really want to have half your team be rookies making their big league debuts and, going through the struggles that rookies go through when they make it to the major leagues? I mean, Westberg, we saw last night he had the pinch hit thing, which I knew he was going to pinch hit, and I knew it wasn't going to go well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just one of those things where he's going to have his struggles. Gunnar, we saw how mightily he struggled the first 2 months of the season, how he's struggling a little bit again right now. You should expect the same thing. Nobody's going to hit the ground running. Some guys do. Ellie De La Cruz really shot out of cannon. But most guys take their lumps at the big league level. Can you afford to do that with half your roster?
Yeah, and the argument to do it, I think, is that it's July right now. You want them to struggle in July, and then when August and September roll around, they've figured it out, and they're able to help the big league club.
Another excellent point. It's the Orioles have a lot of work to do, and it's weird to say that because, again, they are 16 games above 500, but they have lost 3 in a row to teams that you would think they should be able to handle. And they've lost because of things that we've talked about all year. Now, we, meaning me and Zach, this is your first show, but the struggling bullpen, the middling starting rotation, the lack of a real threat in the middle of the order, these things are kind of snowballing together at the same time now, and you're seeing what happens to a team when all of their weaknesses are glaring at the same time. And that's what's happening to the Orioles right now. And, I said last night the wheels are coming off. That doesn't mean I think that the Orioles suck. It just means I think, again, that those weaknesses are all coming to the forefront at the exact same time. And when that happens, it's going to be a rough stretch, especially when it's happening as they're heading into July, where they've got to play nothing but playoff contenders the entire month. You're talking about the Yankees, the Phillies, the Rays, the Twins, the Dodgers, the Phillies. You've got to play the Rays. You've got to play all of these teams in July. It's going to be really tough.
It is.
Really tough. Although September looks kind of like a cakewalk. September looks like a fairly...
Careful what you say.
Of course, but September kind of looks like... It's just nice to see that the Orioles have a bit of a softer schedule for the month of September. So hopefully, Calzer and Kjerstad and Westberg are finding that big league gear, that next gear for themselves.
Yeah, Kjerstad's interesting. I mean, because there's definitely an argument for him to be here. No, I mean, not this week, but yeah.
Right. I mean, number 2 overall pick in the draft in 2020. He's going to be 24 years old. And Arizona Fall League MVP last year. He continues that into spring training. We had a big spring training. He dominated Double-A.
He's been killing Triple-A.
Triple-A. This is a guy who's coming fast. When Calzer gets here, Westberg, Kjerstad's right behind him. So I actually predicted Kjerstad would make it here before Calzer.
And maybe he plays first base because they have been using him at first base.
They've been doing that too. Again, we're going to talk with Jim Callis about that to see exactly how good he's looked over at first base. We've really got to catch a break. Today's show brought to you by PressBox's Glenn Clark Radio, which is a definitive place to find the best daily discussion of Baltimore sports and Griffin Bass. Watch the show every weekday from 10 to noon at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio with podcasts available on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. You never know who might pop up on GCR. This week, the guys called up with the Orioles slugger Ryan O'Hearn, 4th of July hot dog king Joey Chestnut, and Orioles legend Scott McGregor. You can find those interviews and more right now in the Glenn Clark Radio Week in Review feature at PressBoxOnline.com. When we come back in from MLB Pipeline, Jim Callis joins the show. That's next on the Bat Around.
Hey, O's fans. The Birdland Summer Music Series presented by Miller Lite continues at Oriole Park at Camden Yards on Friday, June 30th with DJ Diesel, a.k.a. Shaquille O'Neal. After the Orioles take on the Minnesota Twins at 7:05, stay postgame to watch DJ Diesel live from the infield. The concert is open to all fans who attend the game, with the option to add special on-field access for just $35. You can get up close and experience the biggest DJ in the world, live at Camden Yards. Get your tickets at Orioles.com/music.
Your summer destination is closer than you think at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. With an expansive gaming floor and incredible dining options ready for you to explore, your adventure awaits. Dine at the new Coho Korean Barbecue House coming in July or on the patio at the Prime Rib. Enjoy the summertime breeze at Orchid Smoking Patio. Limited time packages starting at $229. What are you waiting for? Book now. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All electronic tolling is here to stay in Maryland, and DriveEasyMD.com helps you cruise a little easier. We're Maryland's tolling resource, home to Easy Pass, pay-by-plate, and video tolling. It's never been easier to pay your way. DriveEasyMD.com will keep you moving.
The Orioles are off and running, out to prove that last season wasn't a fluke, and they are one of the best teams in baseball. Hi, I'm Paul Valle, host of the Bat Around for Press Box. Tune in every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon as Zack Goodman and I break down every Adley bomb, every Tony Tater, and every save from the mountain. Like a warm hug from Rutschman, the Bat Around has you covered with all things Orioles as we embark on what's sure to be a magical summer in Birdland. So tune in every Saturday for the best in Orioles coverage right here on the Bat Around.
Another exciting weekend of affordable family fun at Prince George's Stadium with the Bowie Bay Sox. It's our Independence Weekend celebration starting on Friday the 30th with our Pride Night. A special ticket package gets you a Bay Sox rainbow hat, and then July 1st through 3rd, major fireworks shows each and every night with a special jersey auction on sale. Get your tickets now by calling 301-805-6000 or anytime online at baysox.com. The Bowie Bay Sox. Let us be your 9-inning vacation.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Costas Inn has been serving up delicious steamed crabs for over 50 years. Lately, the crabs you want to eat when the weather warms up have gotten harder and harder to get. So get your crab eating game plan in place. Make sure to stick this number on your fridge, 410-477-1975. Call ahead and reserve the size crabs you want. You may be able to walk in, but you may also be disappointed at the size or maybe even get shut out altogether. So call ahead, have a plan, and then arrive on your crab eating vacation. Costas also has delicious crab soup and crab cakes. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard. For more than 50 years, they've been satisfying crab lovers in and around Baltimore.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
If you need more of Glenn, you can also hear him every Sunday with Rita on 105.7 The Fan. But also, if you need more of Glenn, what's wrong with you? Welcome back into the Bat Around. Show rolling right along here on a warm and muggy Saturday that's kind of overcast. I feel like it's rained every day for a month. It's been awful weather.
Yeah, well, we didn't have rain for, 3 straight weeks? And then it felt like every day this week, Orioles were in a delay.
Yeah, oh my gosh. And so I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning every day to go to the gym. And every game in the Red Series, there was a rain delay, another rain delay. There were 3 rain delays total in the Red Series between the first 2 games. And in the last game, took almost 4 hours, and they went into extra innings, and I still didn't get to sleep till after midnight because of it. So I'm tired, man, and I haven't caught up yet. But nobody cares about that. We've got Jim Callis to talk about some Orioles prospects and the upcoming Major League Draft from MLB Pipeline. We do have Jim Callis. Good morning, Jim. How are you today?
Good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing really well, really well. Orioles still have the number 1 farm system in baseball, number 1 overall prospect in your latest rankings. Jackson Holliday hits the walk-off home run for Aberdeen last night. Jim, Jackson got off to an incredible start. He cooled off a little bit in June. He slashed 372, 500, 628, 1128 through May between 2 levels, and then 225, 380, 325, 705 in June heading into last night. Has the league kind of caught up to him a little bit? Hard to ask that after he hits the walk-off home run last night, or is he just kind of going through the normal trials and tribulations of a professional season?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have hot, cold streaks. I mean, he's still 19 years old in high A, walking almost as much as he struck out. I just think he went through a little bit of a cold spell. But I think the question. I know I'm kind of, as I watch from afar, and I've got kind of say one eye in the draft. It's probably more like 1 3/4 eyes on the draft until we get to the draft. Like, are we going to see him in Double A before the end of the year? I mean, he's. It's crazy to say this, but I think he's the number 1 overall pick. So far, he's exceeded expectations and moved even quicker and been even better than we thought he was going to.
Now, Jim, you and I, when we last spoke, it was around November, and you said that you expected that he could be in the big leagues as early as the second half of 2024. Now, is that still your line of thinking, or has that progressed, or are you thinking maybe it's a little further away than that?
No, I still think he could. I mean, I don't know if they're necessarily going to need to do that. I mean, they're obviously playing well. They've got, more infielders than they have spots, so I don't think they have to rush him. But, I mean, we're talking about a guy who I do think we may see in Double A before the year's over. And, yeah, I think we could see him at some point in the second half of 2024. I mean, early 2025 would probably be a safer pick. But, again, I mean, if he continues to produce like he's produced every step of the way, and I don't see any reason why the Orioles aren't contending next year, I think you're going to get to a point at some point during the year that he's going to be probably better than somebody in the Orioles lineup, and it'll be time to call him up.
And that leads me to another infielder who's a top 100 prospect, and that's Joey Ortiz. The glove looks to be elite. In 61 career games at AAA, he hits .345 with a .400 on-base percentage. When he got called up to the Orioles for an extended period, he was growing cobwebs on the bench. Are you surprised that he hasn't taken over at shortstop for this team? Because for me, I think that's the move to make, and they just haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to get acclimated to the big leagues when you aren't playing regularly. I know they have a lot of respect for him. Mateo, who's played very well defensively, can obviously run, and has done very little with the bat this year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a natural move to make at some point. I mean, you're not giving up anything with the glove at all. I mean, Ortiz might be better than Mateo defensively. Yeah, I mean, he's not the runner Mateo is, but I would think that Joey Ortiz is capable of putting up 6-18 ops, which is what Mateo's done so far. It's tough. I mean, the team's playing well. Sometimes you don't. And I can't speak to maybe if Mateo's well liked, and I do know they have a lot of respect for his glove. You don't want to put him on the bench. Ortiz has options. It's easier to sit the rookie than sit the veteran. But sometimes you have to make those tough calls. And I agree with you. I think it's kind of getting to the point with the year that Mateo's had offensively that you probably do need to see what Ortiz has to offer if you let him play every day and get a chance to get regular at bat.
Yeah, an infield that wraps around the horn going, Westberg at second, Ortiz at shortstop, and Gunnar Henderson at third base. That becomes one of the most exciting young infields, in my opinion, in the game right now. I think that makes the Orioles the best they can possibly be in the infield. So we'll see if that's what's going to come to fruition here down the line. Got a couple of guys in their outfield, although one of them's also been playing a good bit at first base. Heston Kjerstad and Colton Cowser. Colton Cowser, I have to imagine, Jim, that the only reason he's not in the big leagues right now is because the Orioles have one of the most productive outfields in baseball. Is that correct thinking on my part there?
Yeah, I'm thinking along the same lines as you. I mean, Hayes, Mullins, and Santander are all playing well. Ryan O'Hearn's been giving them a lot of production on the DH spot when he's played too. So there just hasn't been an opportunity really to squeeze him in. And you don't want, like we're just talking about Ortiz, you don't want to call the guy up and then, give Cowser, start every 3 or 4 days. Because it's just really hard to get into an offensive rhythm when you do that. But, yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean, there's so many superlatives you could throw at this farm system. I mean, I've never seen a farm system in a calendar year have the number one prospect in Adley Rutschman. Then he goes up to big leagues, graduates off our list. They have the number one prospect in Gunnar Henderson. He goes up to big leagues, graduates off our list. They have the number one prospect in Jackson Holiday. But I was also going to say, it's amazing that Cowser just continually gets overshadowed, and that guy has done nothing but perform everywhere he's been. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's a career 300 hitter with an ops over 900, drawing, plenty of walks in his minor league career. and he doesn't get talked about a lot. Like it's crazy. I mean, we just bumped him up. We kind of tweaked the top of our top 100 list. He's number 14 on our top 100 prospects list, and I think by far he's the most anonymous of the top 15 or so guys on that list.
Yeah, it seems like it. Outside of Baltimore, I don't hear anybody talking about Colton Cowser. And you look at maybe his one weakness was his inability to hit left-handed pitching last year. 194 versus left-handed pitching last year. He's turned that into 302 this season. So getting back to being able to hit left-handed pitchers has been awesome for him, and there's not a spot for him right now. I keep trying to tell fans that look, Cowser would be here if there was a spot for him, but you're not going to take productive big leaguers and bench them for a productive minor league player. That's just not how it works. And then Heston Kjerstad, Arizona Fall League MVP. Then he dominates spring training. Then he dominates AA. And now he's more than holding his own at AAA. Is he on Cowser's heels for promotion as well?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he got off last year when he finally came back. His career was delayed because of the myocarditis and then a hamstring injury. Yeah, he tore it up at Delmarva for 3 weeks, and then he went and struggled at Aberdeen over the last 6 weeks of last season. And so, it was like, okay, how good, is he really? Like, those were both kind of small sample sizes. He was great in the fall league, which, look, admittedly, that's an offensive league. But, this year he's come back and looked like the same guy that he looked like in the fall league. I mean, I think he's going to be a power over hit guy, but he's going to hit, more than enough. We're not talking, Joey Gallo where he's going to hit 190 with power. I think this is a guy who could hit 260, 270 with 30-plus homers a season. And he plays solid right field, and he's also played, some first base as well.
Now, at first base, how has he looked over at first base? Are the Orioles doing that because they don't have really a top prospect for that position in their minor league system? It's really the only position they don't have covered in the system. Is that why he's getting some run at first base so they can find a way to get him quicker?
Yeah, I mean, you just talked about how, there's not room for Colton Cowser right now in the lineup. And so if you keep Kjerstad in the outfield, there's not room. I don't know if they're moving him permanently first base, but look, Mountcastle's been banged up. Who knows what Ryan O'Hearn's going to give you over the full year. And, I think it's a case more of, at this moment right now, we don't have an obvious spot for him. So let's see how first base looks to increase his chances. Another guy who they're going to have to pick at first base down the road is Kobe Mayo. If Holiday's it's like there's not room for everybody. It's insane. But if let's say, no disrespect to Joey Ortiz, but let's say Holiday's your shortstop and Henderson's your third baseman, Kobe Mayo's going to have to play first at some point too. And I think we kind of felt like he might be headed there anyway. So I don't necessarily think that long term, Kjerstad is necessarily being viewed as first baseman. It's just in the short term that might be the way to get at bat. But I think long term, Kobe Mayo is probably your first base. It's going to be fun. I mean, they basically have 6 infielders for 4 spots and 5 outfielders for 3 spots. And that's with me not knowing whether you want to count Connor Norby as a second baseman or an outfielder. So, I mean, it's a good problem to have.
It's an excellent problem to have, and some of these guys are going to get traded too. That's just the nature of the business. That if you want to acquire that frontline starting pitcher to get you over the hump and win some playoff games for you, you're going to have to trade some of these prospects. So they've got a plethora of excellent players, and not all of them are going to play for the Baltimore Orioles in the big leagues, and it's hard to convince fans of it, but that's not the worst problem in the world because it's only going to make you better in the long run. And then, Jim, finally, before we get to some draft talk here, I want to ask you a little bit about Grayson Rodriguez. He struggled in the majors. Every other start was really good, and then the other starts were really bad. But he's dominated in the minors. It's tough because a playoff contender really can't afford a project, but he has nothing left to prove in AAA, in my opinion at least. The Command suffered in the majors. The home run ball has plagued him at both levels this season. Are we still viewing him as an ace-like starter? What have you noticed about him that has made the adjustment to the big leagues a little bit bumpier for him?
Yeah, I still think he's a frontline starter. I mean, the thing to remember is even counting this year, he's barely pitched, 300 innings in the minor league. So it's not like he's gotten a lot of innings. He lost a full year to the pandemic. He had the lat injury last year. He's only gone over 100 innings once. So he's flown through the minors, but he hasn't necessarily accumulated a lot of experience. And I just think, this year, like you noted, I mean, the biggest issue has been the command. I don't think there's any problem with the stuff. Big league level, if you aren't locating your pitches well, you're going to get hammered. You can get by with it a little bit more, in AAA. And you're right. I mean, I think that's, he's not the first young pitcher who needs to refine his control and command. I think that's the issue. But you also hit the nail on the head. Like, they're playing really well. So, like, as opposed to, say, last year when he probably would have been called up, around the same time as Adley, if he hadn't had, the lat issue, they could have, rolled him out there every fifth day and let him take his lumps and work through some things. And you can't really do that when you're a viable playoff contender. I think we'll see him back up pretty quickly. I still am very bullish on his long-term future. It's just, like you said, circumstances changed in Baltimore. The Orioles are winning, and he doesn't have as long leash to figure things out at the big league level as he would have, in any of the previous 3 or 4 years. But no, I think the future's still extremely bright. Even for all his struggles in the big league, he still struck out 56 guys in 45 innings. I mean, he was missing bats. It's just, about making fewer mistakes so you aren't getting pounded when you do. It'll be interesting. I still feel, they've been pretty healthy in terms of their starters this year. Because I think outside of 5 guys in the rotation now, and Grayson, the Keegan Aiken make like one start, as an opener. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Like in all likelihood, not everybody's going to stay perfectly healthy all season long, and we'll probably see him back in the big league too. And it's not like Cole Irvin is lighting it up either. So I mean, I think we'll see him probably sooner rather than later if he continues to pitch well in AAA.
Yeah, and that could be big for the Orioles if he comes back and looks like the AAA guy. And look, like you said, 56 strikeouts in 45 innings, and this is a guy who really did show flashes. There were some dominant starts from him. It's just they were the ones following it were really, really bad in the other direction. So we'll see what happens with that. Now let's get to the draft here. Orioles pick number 17. It's the first time that they're picking below really the top 5 in 5 years now. So, and it's also the first time that I haven't seen a unanimous pick where multiple people agree it's going to be the same guy. There's a number of guys.
Those two things are related, Paul.
Yeah, no.
Those two things are related because they're picking so low.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in your latest mock draft for MLB Pipeline, you have the Orioles taking right-handed pitcher Hurston Waldrop out of Florida. It will be a first for this regime, Jim, to take a pitcher in the first round. Is that just because that's the guy who's showing up the most in the mock drafts right now, or is that somebody who really think that the Orioles could take a shot on heading into the draft?
Well, I think it's both. I mean, like when I do a mock draft, I try to go based on like the whatever intel I have at the time. And I keep coming back to Waldrop. That doesn't mean they're focused in on him. And the tough thing about 17 is just figuring out who's going to go ahead of him. I mean, there's probably 8 guys I can cross off with certainty. No chance to get to 17. And then you have a group of about 20 players, and most of them are high school or college position players who are probably going to be, 20 of the next 22, 23, 24 picks. And you just don't know who's going to get to them. I do hear Hurston Waldrop a lot. I don't know if any of your listeners, watched him in the College World Series. I mean, all things equal, I think the Orioles would like to get an arm. I mean, that would be a greater need. We talked about all these position players. They don't have room for everybody. But you don't necessarily draft for need. You're taking the best guy in the first round. I think Waldrop's the guy who can move quickly. There is, I think, some reliever risk with him, because he relies heavily on a splitter. It's more of a chase pitch. Most splitters are. You aren't throwing splitters in the strike zone. And he can sometimes get into ruts where he gets behind, and he throws hard, but it's not. If he doesn't locate the fastball well, it can get hit sometimes. So you could dream that he could be a starter and he could move fairly quickly, and in the end, he might wind up as a reliever. It's late inning stuff. It's potential closer stuff. But he's a guy. He's the only pitcher who I think really that could get to that spot. Maybe they would take a high school pitcher like Thomas White. I think Thomas White could go ahead of him too. If it's not Waldrop, then I think there's a ton of bats who could be in play at 17. Among that group of 20 guys I said, and that depends on who gets to them and who goes before them.
Yeah, and in that latest mock draft, you mentioned prep bats: Aidan Miller, Arjun Nimala, Blake Mitchell, Bryce Eldridge. You also linked Arizona outfielder Chase Davis to the Orioles. We've just talked about how the Orioles have too many guys for too little positions in both the infield and the outfield, but you also want to take the best player, and you worry about where they're going to play later once they're knocking on the door for you. If it was to be one of those prep bats or that college bat, which one do you think would be the best pick for the Orioles to be an everyday solid big league player?
Yeah, and I'd say another name I've heard too lately is Florida Atlantic first baseman Nolan Shanuel, who had crazy offensive numbers this year in college. If it were me making a pick, and I could have any of those guys, I really like Aiden Miller, and I think Aiden Miller has a chance to get to him. He'll be a third baseman in pro ball, Florida high school third baseman, and it's interesting. So he was the best hitter on the high school showcase circuit when these guys are going to various tournaments and events last summer. Aiden Miller was the best high school bat, and he came out this year and he broke his hamate. He didn't play very much this year. And I think, it's weird. It doesn't even make sense to me, and it's going to sound silly. It's like his stock's taking a little bit of a hit, not because people feel like people come back from broken hamate. It just takes time. Not that people feel it's going to affect him long term. It's just you couldn't go out and lay eyes on him, hitting great this spring. He had the broken hamate. And to me, Aiden Miller should probably go in the top, he should go in the top 10 to 15 picks. No doubt in my mind. Not that I'm right about all this stuff, but he should not get to the Orioles, but I think there's a chance he does get to the Orioles. So of the guys I've thrown out there as candidates, he would be the best one. And I know I said we're going to have Gunnar Henderson the third, and probably Westberg or Ortiz second, and Holiday at short. And who knows what we do with Connor Norby, and Kobe Mayo goes over to first. So I know, from a need standpoint, they don't need another infielder, but I think you just take the best guy. And you know what? If Aiden Miller develops like you hope, and a lot of these guys develop like you hope at the big leagues, and you don't have a spot for him, then you trade Aiden Miller for a top flight pitch down the road. Then that's why, like you were saying, you take the best guy, because you're not asking these guys to be in the lineup today. You're not asking them to be in the lineup next year. Whoever you take at 17, realistically, 2025 would be a pretty quick trip to the majors. And who knows what the big league club will look like in 2025?
Yeah.
And like we were saying, if you have so many great players and you don't have enough places to play them, then you trade some of them for pitching. So you just take the best guy at 17, and in my mind, the best case that's realistic would probably be Aiden Miller.
And then finally, Maryland shortstop Matt Shaw. You have him going 19th in your latest mock draft. You have him as your number 16 overall prospect. More walks and strikeouts this year, 24 homers, 69 RBIs. He's got 46 home runs the last 2 years, MVP of the Cape Cod League. Could you see the Orioles bringing a local guy into their team in the first round?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things. I could list a bunch of guys because a bunch of guys would make sense for the Orioles. And it's funny. So, when you're doing a mock draft, I will list other candidates, obviously, when I'm writing about these guys. But when you're doing a mock draft, obviously, when you make your pick, you can only give one guy to each team.
Sure.
And so this will sound funny. You write a mock draft like I do, and I look at it. I just told you, Nolan Shanuel, who I mentioned Florida Atlantic, I had going 21 to the Cardinals. He could actually go as high as 11 to the Angels. And so I look at Nolan Shanuel at 21. I'm he's probably going to go higher than that. But I had to put only one name per team. I would say the same thing with Matt Shaw. I think Matt Shaw's got some helium. I think I have Matt Shaw going 19 to the Rays. That's just the way I had this draft work out. I think there's a chance that Matt Shaw could go 10th or 11th to the Marlins or the Angels. So, yeah, I think definitely would be in the mix for the Orioles if he's there. I don't think he's going to play shortstop in pro ball or certainly at the major league level. I think he's second baseman. But you point out, he hit at Maryland. Maryland's ballpark is kind of, the dimensions are a little bit ridiculous. So a lot of guys hit at Maryland, but he was MVP of the Cape Cod League. I think everybody I've talked to really believes in Shaw's bat. I think he's moving upwards. And so this makes no sense. Even though I have him going 19th in my mock draft, if I had to bet, I bet that he probably doesn't even make it to Baltimore. So, yeah, I think if he's there, I had a bunch of high school guys going ahead of the Orioles, and it may not shake out that way. And so, yeah, I think he definitely would be in the mix if he's there at 17.
I'll tell you that the Baltimore Orioles fans would go absolutely bananas if they took a Maryland shortstop in the first round. People would be it would be a party. It would be an absolute party.
And he's really good. He's really good. It wouldn't be, hey, we're taking the local kid because it's cool. Like, Matt Shaw is really good, and I bet if we got, Mike Elias or Brett Stolick on the show right now, if we called them up and asked them, do you think Matt Shaw gets to 17, they probably would tell us no.
Yeah, he had a really great year for a really good Maryland team that he kind of had a disappointing end of their season, but they're going to be good for a while, and he was at the forefront of that for sure the last 2 seasons. So, Jim, always really great when we get a chance to talk to you. I know you've got a lot of stuff going on with the draft coming up in just 8 days, so I appreciate you taking the time. You got a couple more mock drafts coming for us before we hit that draft next Sunday?
We've got Jonathan Mayo will have one on Friday, and then we will do a double mock Saturday night going into Sunday. Sometimes we do a names-only mock, or we revise the top of the mock Sunday, depending on how busy we are running around getting ready for the broadcast. So we'll have at least 2 more mocks and maybe some sort of update between now and the draft next Sunday.
Excellent. We look forward to all of your draft coverage. You and Jonathan do such a great job every year on that, and you guys are some of the hardest working guys in sports, so we do appreciate your time. Always love talking with you, Jim. Hope to talk to you again down the line. Enjoy your draft week, all right?
Okay, thanks, Paul. I appreciate the kind words, and we'll see who the Orioles get. And it feels weird not like in the past we could really narrow it down. This year, it's just kind of have to wait and see who goes ahead of them before we can figure it out.
I got to admit, though, I love that we're at that point, though. I'd rather have this than the other.
And then they're going to probably be picking even lower next year. So
yeah, exactly. All right, Jim, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon, all right?
Okay, take care.
Take care. That was Jim Callis joining us for another excellent segment. Not only one of the hardest working guys in baseball, he's also one of the nicest guys in baseball. So is Jonathan Mayo, for that matter. I've always had a great rapport with Jonathan Mayo, man. They're just really cool guys to talk to, and they know a lot about baseball, which I love. So awesome to have him on the show. Really looking forward to the Orioles draft. Have no clue who they're taking. There's a couple of guys that if they took them, including Matt Shaw, I would be through the roof excited about it. So we got to catch a break. When we come back in, we'll do Take to Rake and the Bet Around, and then close things out with final thoughts. All of that next on the Bet Around.
Maryland drivers, did you know you can save up to 77% on tolls with an Easy Pass Maryland discount plan? That's right, 77%. It's never been easier. Pick the plan that's right for you at driveezmd.com. We'll keep you moving.
It's a Maryland thing you wouldn't understand.
Where the waves meet the shore, you will find Dorchester County. Hi, this is Jimmy Charles. When I think of Maryland, I think Dorchester County on the eastern shore where it's open for making memories. Dorchester County, it's a Maryland thing. For more info, visit www.visitdorchester.org.
It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah. It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Dave Ginsburg remembers Goose as he looks back on the impact that late Tony Saragusa had both on and off the field here in Baltimore. Plus, he explains how Goose's kids are working to continue that legacy with the Goose Flights program. Also inside, Todd Karpovich profiles the path Tyler Wells has taken to becoming a star in the Orioles rotation. And you'll find a special summer travel guide with information about events and activities throughout the state. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
The All-America Senior Game powered by New Balance will be back at Johns Hopkins Homewood Field on July 29th. The most decorated girls and boys lacrosse players in the country have been invited to play in what is the premier lacrosse event of the year. Every college coach wants their players in this game, and if you dream of being in this game, you start by trying out for one of your regional underclass teams this summer. The best against the best. Get your tickets now at allamericalacrosse.com.
Hey Birdland, watch the Orioles in action against the Minnesota Twins at Camden Yards on Saturday, July 1st at 4:05. Be one of the first 30,000 fans 15 and over to receive the Birdland Hawaiian shirt. Arrive early for one of our most popular giveaways and for early bird Saturdays. Gates open 2 hours before first pitch every Saturday home game with happy hour, live music, and more. Enter vacation mode and purchase your tickets today at Orioles.com/tickets.
Your summer destination is closer than you think at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. With an expansive gaming floor and incredible dining options ready for you to explore, your adventure awaits. Dine at the new Coho Korean Barbecue House coming in July or on the patio at the Prime Rib. Enjoy the summertime breeze at Orchid Smoking Patio. Limited time packages starting at $229. What are you waiting for? Book now. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Costas Inn has been serving up delicious steamed crabs for over 50 years. Lately, the crabs you want to eat when the weather warms up have gotten harder and harder to get. So get your crab-eating game plan in place. Make sure to stick this number on your fridge, 410-477-1975. Call ahead and reserve the size crabs you want. You may be able to walk in, but you may also be disappointed at the size or maybe even get shut out altogether. So call ahead, have a plan, and then arrive on your crab-eating vacation. Costas also has delicious crab soup and crab cakes. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard. For more than 50 years, they've been satisfying crab lovers in and around Baltimore.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Check out PressBoxOnline.com every day to find daily winners and betting advice from Jeremy Kahn. And if you want some advice about life decisions that you probably shouldn't make, here's Glenn Clark. Not Glenn Clark. Paul Valle here with Griffin Bass. So we do kind of have a Glenn Clark radio vibe going on. He's the producer who replaced me on Glenn Clark Radio. And usually our break 3 music is old Glenn Clark Radio theme music, which is just awesome. Have you ever heard it?
I feel like I might recognize it, but I can't think of it off the top of my head.
It is unequivocally awesome.
It's the best. It's the best entrance. Okay.
It is really good. I enjoy it thoroughly. Zach and I always sit here and just kind of let it play for about 30 seconds when we come back from our third break, and because it gets you going. It gets the juices going. The juice is flowing. It makes you feel good about yourself and about your life. You know what I mean? Or maybe not. Maybe that's an exaggeration. But sorry, I'm trying. I couldn't remember who we took. Zach had to remind me for Take to Rake. Oh my God, they legitimately. So Zach took Gunnar Henderson. I took Austin Hayes, and they had basically
pretty similar weeks.
They basically had the same freaking week.
Wow. So what do you do? Is this a Take to Rake first, or is this?
No, we've had ties in the past.
How do you measure it? What is the scoring parameters?
So you basically go by who was the most productive. So you go by OPS. If they average and the on base percentage are similar, you go by OPS and then production. So if you give me just a second here.
Let's see if I can't. I feel like it feels bad that we're having these the break issues when I'm here. I feel like because it makes it feel like it's on me. But
no, dude. This one's totally on me. It's simply because of the fact that I have not managed my time well. It's really the Orioles game went late last night because of that rain delay.
We basically had 3 West Coast games for the Orioles this week.
And the fact that I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning every day and I'm not getting home till 6:30 most days. I just haven't had a lot of sleep, and so it's been difficult for me to keep my eyes open. And last night that was no exception. I literally, and like I said, I had to do double work last night for the payoff pitch around the league and for what's on tap, and that took me. I can't even tell you. Like I can't stress enough how freaking long that took to write a game recap for every game that happened last night, and then a game snippet and preview for every game going on today. And you actually have 16 games going on today because the Yankees have a doubleheader. So you're still doing 30 games, but you're doing 16 for today, and then you still have to write a snippet about the rain out for the Yankees and the Cardinals last night, which made it that much more difficult.
Okay. So I have their OPSs for the last 7 days.
So I've got all that. Okay. I do have all that, and I'm actually just about ready to go here. And you and I are going to make a decision on this. Base percentage 292 slugging, 599 OPS. He had a double and he had 3 RBIs. Gunnar Henderson, 250 batting average, 286 on base percentage, 450 slugging, 736 OPS, 2 doubles, a triple, 3 RBIs. We don't like to have ties here. Their numbers are so damn similar.
Yeah.
The problem is Hayes slugged 292. He had like 4 infield hits this week.
Right.
And his OPS is 599.
And Gunnar had that triple against Cincinnati.
The 3-run triple,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? He also had a couple other doubles. The slugging is 450, the OPS 736. Neither one of them raked, but Gunnar Henderson was the better hitter.
I agree.
He was
I
the better
think
hitter.
I definitely agree. I was rooting for you. I really wanted to find a way to twist this that we could say Austin Hayes, but I think Gunnar had the better week.
Gunnar had the better week for sure, and I am really behind, man. I think Zach has 5 wins now. I have 2.
Oof, yeah.
No, Zach has 4 wins. No, he has 5. He has 5 wins. I have 2. And I started out 2-0. I have 2, and our guests have 3 or 4. I am really, really far behind. If I want to take home that beautiful former Miguel Tejada now new Take to Rake trophy for a 4th consecutive season, I got to step my game up. I don't have the advantage this week, though, because since you're in Zach's chair and Zach won, Griffin, you get to pick first.
Yes. All right. Who do I want to pick? Because I'm kind of leaning Gunnar again. I kind of like the ballparks that they're going to be in this week. You know
what though? That's one of the rules. You can't take Gunnar because Zach took him last week. You can't take the same player.
Are we just
2 weeks
making
in a
these
row.
up now? Or on
No,
the fly? No. This is a rule. This is a rule.
This is
Okay.
100% one of there's. That's honestly, it's the only rule. It's the only rule is you cannot take a player that was taken that you took the week before. So
gotcha. So you're not allowed to take Gunnar either. Is that?
No, I can.
Oh, you can.
I can.
Oh, okay.
But so like for example, if Dan Connolly comes on the show and he takes Austin Hayes and whether he wins or loses, if Rich Dubroff comes on the next week, he cannot take Austin Hayes. That's happened. It's actually happened a few times this year.
All right, let me see here. Who would I want this week? I feel like Ryan O'Hearn is due for a big week. Again, I like the lefties playing in Yankee Stadium, and I guess Minnesota's not quite exactly a lefty friendly ballpark, but really a friendly ballpark to anyone, I guess. I think I'll go with Adley. I think Adley's very much, he's definitely due. A home run last night, the only spark they had. I think he'll ride that, and I'll take Adley for this upcoming week.
So Adley
to rake.
Adley, I picked him for opening day, and he got 5 hits.
Yeah,
and a home
that
run.
worked out.
So I won. Every time I've picked him since then, like the next time I picked him, he went 1 for 19. The time after, I think he went like 3 for 24. So me picking Adley has not worked out.
Sounds
this
like
year.
you picking anyone. It might be a curse.
I'm the champion. I'm the 3-time reigning, defending champion.
Undisputed.
Exactly, right? Little Paul Heyman there.
Yeah.
I really got to step it up. I'm taking a guy who I have not taken yet this year, I think. I'm taking Tony Taters.
All right, Anthony Santander.
I got to go with Anthony Santander. He came through with a hit last night. He had that 4-hit game the other day. Had a little bit of a rough June. I think that he's going to put the team on his back this week and kind of guide them through the beginning of a really tough stretch of games here in the month of July. Tony Taters, couple of home runs this week, I think.
All right.
He's my pick for Take to Rake.
Get hot again. Definitely a nice high floor pick, I think.
Yeah. I'm a Tony Taters guy. It's so funny, man, because last year, right, I've tweeted a lot of good things about Anthony Santander. A lot of good things. Last year, he hit 241, right? And I tweeted, Anthony Santander is not a 3-hitter. He should be hitting 5th or 6th on this team. And during the All-Star break, Santander went through Twitter, and he liked all of the negative tweets that people put out about him, including mine. And I was like, man, what about all the positive tweets I put out about you? Because I'm the one who said a few years back, I said, when this rebuild is over, I think the best player to come out of it, not named Adley Rutschman, is going to be Anthony Santander. He's having a career year this year. He's been, he's deserved to hit
the week he had. If either of you had picked him last week, you would have been.
It would have been awesome. Yeah. It would have been absolutely awesome. That's why I'm picking him this week. I got to take a flyer on him. It's not even a flyer. He's maybe the best offensive player on the team this year. Having a career year, I love. And look, the guy. I'm a big fitness guy. He keeps himself in tremendous shape. He taught himself how to speak English.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's one thing that I always love seeing that when these guys are able to do their on-field interviews and then they're able to do them in English.
And he
it's
has,
so refreshing for them and happy for them that they're working hard.
The translator with him, and he doesn't use him.
Right.
And he just seems like a really genuinely nice guy. He's got an infectious personality. I'm an Anthony Santander fan. Just last year, I thought he should have hit 6th in the Orioles order. That was all I was saying. But I love Anthony Santander, taking him for take to rake. Now we're going to get to the bet around here on the bat around. Last week I told you to do a parlay. I think it was 43.60 plus 43.69 because we go hard or go home here.
That is a good long shot there.
Well, because I made the parlay myself. I took Austin Hayes to get a hit, Gunnar Henderson to hit a home run, Julio Rodriguez to hit a home run, and the over on 9 runs. Well, the good news was they scored 10 runs between the two teams. Orioles won 6-4. Julio Rodriguez hit a home run.
Yes, he did.
Austin Hayes did not record a hit. Gunnar Henderson recorded 2 hits but no home runs. So that parlay did not win. I'm tired of hitting some and not hitting some and screwing my listeners over. So I'm going to take today the over on 8.5.
All right.
I'm taking the over.
The muggy weather doesn't bother you, and we'll get some runs today.
Yeah, the muggy weather is going to have them hitting some bombs today. They're going to bounce back in a big way.
Nothing off Bradish, though.
Nothing off Bradish. It's just going to be the Orioles are going to score 8 runs on their own.
Okay.
All right, so it's going to be I'm taking the over on 8.5 runs. And you know what? I'm going to go with my guy, not 2 home runs. I'm going to go Anthony Santander at plus 200 to record 2 hits.
Okay. I like that. Yeah. Coming off he had a hit last night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you got minus 122 for the over on 9 runs, and you have plus 200 on Anthony Santander to record 2 hits. Now, if you take both of them, this is great radio. Let me tell you. You take both of them, and you're looking at a parlay that's going to pay you out at plus 314. So you bet $10, you win $31.44. We like to go hard or go home, but I also don't want to keep having my listeners, if they do take my betting advice, and I don't know why you would, but if they do take my betting advice, I want them to get a winner here. The first bet around that we did this year, I took Austin Hayes to homer, and I took Alex Verdugo to homer, and they both homered in that game. So we hit the first 2, and then we went on something like a 3 for like 20 stretch. It was pretty awful. But yeah, so I'm going to take the over on the 8.5 runs at plus 200, and Anthony Santander to record a hit, to record 2 hits at plus 200. I'm sorry, it's minus 122. I'm sorry on the over.
Okay. All right, I'll dish one out, just a straight bet for me. I like Kyle Bradish today to get 7 strikeouts. Twins are they strike out the most of any team in all of baseball, and Kyle Bradish has been a strikeout guy. I mean, he's had at least 7 strikeouts in 3 of his last 4 starts, and then the one start he didn't. He only had that 1 strikeout against Toronto, but he went 7 innings. But I like him. I like his strikeout numbers again today against the Twins, who strike out more than anyone in baseball.
Are you taking 6+ strikeouts or 7+?
7+.
7+ strikeouts.
I'll take the plus odds there. So over, I guess his over under is at 6.5. But yeah, I'll take 7+ strikeouts plus 116 is what I'm seeing over on FanDuel.
So, Zach, I'm glad that you did something because Zach is not allowed to.
Oh, that's
because
right.
Because he works for the Guardians as
okay.
It's not even amateur scout. He's like an associate scout or something like that. And because he does that, he's not allowed to take part in this. So I'm glad you picked something because I think that that'll be a lot better for our listeners here. Yeah. So again, Paul's taking the over on 8.5 runs at minus 122, and Anthony Santander to record 2+ hits at plus 200. It'll pay out $31.46 if you play both of them together. And then Griffin, he's taking Kyle Bradish 7+ Ks at plus 116 against a usually weak Minnesota Twins lineup. So very good there. Wow, it's 12:24, man. These shows tend to go long every time.
That's just what happens in this studio specifically. It seems.
Yeah. Sometimes we don't get out of here till 12:45, which it's rare these days, but it's always about 12:30 when we're done here. So, final thoughts. I want to end the show with my final thoughts. Do you have any final thoughts about the Orioles or about the show in general?
No, I appreciate you letting me come in today. I had a good time hanging around with you, talking a little baseball. Let's see, final thoughts. I'm ready for a trade. I'd like, when you and Zach are here next Saturday, I'd like you guys to be able to break down, the new reliever, the new starter, whoever it is that the Orioles brought in. And is here to help the team. I guess maybe it is a little ambitious by next Saturday, but before after the All-Star break, I'd like them to have during the All-Star break, I would like them to have figured something out.
That would be
have somebody.
And that would be an opportune time to do it. Do it over the All-Star break, so that you get the nice break. He gets to come into the city, get acclimated to his new teammates, and then come out and whoever the player is and be able to hit the ground running the first game back. That would be ideal. I also would like to see that because of the fact that you have a really tough stretch of games here in July, and you want to add somebody who's going to help you win more than you lose in this month so that you don't fall behind the 8 ball, fall behind the Yankees or the Blue Jays in the wild card race. I don't think they're going to fall out of it, but it could be a really tough month. And look, we thought May was going to be a really tough month, and they more than held their own that month. June, they were over 500, but I feel like they played under their abilities in June. I'm with you. I want to see something like that. I want to see a trade in the next week or two.
Yeah. And just to throw out another team, the Nationals we don't see trades between the Orioles and Nationals, obviously, hardly ever. But interesting. Hunter Harvey obviously that would be a weird trade, I guess, just because of his history with the Orioles, but he's having a great season for the Nats in the bullpen. Kyle Finnegan, even. I'm not sure if they want to move on from him, but
I love Kyle Finnegan.
Yeah. We talked about Josiah Gray, had a great start yesterday. That would probably be a hefty price on Josiah Gray or any of their starters, but those are guys that would help this pitching staff without a doubt.
Tomorrow's starter for the Twins, Sonny Gray, final year of his deal. He's going to cost you something, but he's not going to cost as much because he doesn't have a contract for next year. So I look at that as a guy, I really want – the Twins aren't a good baseball team. They can't hit. Despite what they did last night, they can't hit. They have some good pitching.
Correa had 2 hits. He probably won't have 2 hits for the next 10 days.
Yeah, exactly. And so you look at that team and you look at that division. It's winnable, but I want to see them really kind of fall off so Sonny Gray can put on an Orioles uniform the last couple months of the season and help them get to the promised land because they're not far away from being a legitimate World Series contender this year.
A couple former Oakland A's facing off Sunday.
Yeah.
Paul Irvin and Sonny Gray.
There you go. And it's crazy because I thought Sonny Gray's career was over 5-6 years ago, and he's really rebounded to be one of the best pitchers in baseball over the last several
After how
years.
bad he was with the Yankees. It looked like he might have been done.
Yeah, I thought he was. But you know what? We saw that happen to Randy Johnson also, and then he got out of there and was stellar. So still stellar. So I'm with you on the trade there. My final thought, and I alluded to this earlier when I talked some trash about him. Celebrating human garbage in Major League Baseball. And I say that because Domingo Germán just threw a perfect game the other day, and this is a guy who was suspended for 80 games for beating up his girlfriend. And he's consistently under the microscope for having foreign substances on him. He's been caught a couple of times. People continue to see him do it even this year. Which, whatever, man. Everybody used Spider Tech until 2 years ago, right? So that's less of a concern for me. This guy beat up his girlfriend and got suspended for 80 games. He shouldn't be in the league. And then I'm supposed to be excited that he threw the first perfect game in baseball since 2012? No, man. No, I was pissed. I was disappointed.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that guy have success. I don't want to see good things for him. I want to see him fail. And I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not vindictive. But when you put your hands on a woman, and to the extent that you get suspended 80 games, you're a piece of human crap. And you have no business playing in the league, let alone throwing a perfect game and being celebrated. And the same thing goes for Aroldis Chapman. And you look at the Yankees, man, and you can't grow a beard and you can't grow your hair long, but if you punch women, that's okay because you help us win ball games. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. And they employed Domingo Germán. They employed Aroldis Chapman, only got rid of him because he started to not be that great. So beating women, okay. Not being that great at not being as good as you used to be at baseball, but still being pretty damn good. And growing your hair long and growing a beard, not okay. What are we doing in baseball? Orioles fans, I saw Orioles fans yesterday actually lamenting the fact that Chapman got traded to the Rangers. I was thrilled. I was absolutely thrilled because, good, maybe the Rangers got better, but they sold their soul to the devil. And I want no parts of anybody like Aroldis Chapman or Domingo Germán on the Baltimore Orioles because I can't root for you. And I root for the Orioles. The Orioles are the very first love of my entire life, and they are my passion. And the last thing I want to do is have a person like that on the roster because I want them to win, but I don't want them to succeed. Don't want that guy to succeed. Aroldis Chapman, I don't care who he went to as long as it's not the Orioles. I'm good with it. And guys, he's not that good anymore anyway. He's got a sub-3 ERA. He's having a good year, but he ain't throwing 105 anymore. So good riddance to him. Hope good luck to the Rangers. It'll
make it very sweet when we get to a playoff series and the Orioles they throw in Aroldis Chapman late in the game and the Orioles get to him and take him deep, and that'll feel great.
Tony Taters has had some success against him. So
he's not fared well with the Yankees when he faced the Orioles.
Chapman can go. He can go kiss a curb somewhere, for all I'm concerned. Same thing with Domingo Germán. So that's my final thoughts. Don't hit women. You shouldn't be in baseball if you do. And, just don't be an overall piece of crap human being. All right. Thank you to Griffin for coming in, sitting on the show, and doing a great job. Really, really great talking some baseball with you.
Absolutely.
I wasn't sure what to expect because I haven't talked baseball.
Yeah, I know. We haven't talked in a while.
You know what I mean? But you did a great job. You really held your own
thank you.
And helped carry the conversations here with me. So thank you for that. Thank you to Stan for his weekly segment. Thank you to Jim Callis for another excellent segment. He's always a blast to have on the show. Thank you to all of our listeners. Without you, we don't have a show. And thank you to our sponsors. Without you, we also don't have a show. So, guys, enjoy your 4th of July weekend. Be safe. Uber. Don't drink and drive. And we will see you next week. See ya.